Welcome back live to Le Mans coverage on Eurosport 2. Mark Cole, Simon Hill and Martin Haven heading into the final 4 hours of this race. We're a minute inside the 4-hour marker, so in an hour and a half we'll still have a full American Le Mans Series race to go. We are still just within 1,000 kilometres of the finish, but guys, 4 hours, the threat of rain. We already had a little smattering which didn't do anything because it barely even touched the surface, but there is the promise of thunderstorms potentially on the way. So although Peugeot have a stranglehold on the race, they're first and second with Audi in third place, Porsche Spider leading in LMP2, Corvette on top in GT1, and the Ferrari of Risi Competizione on top in GT2. Still, as we've seen so many times from start to finish in this race, Mark, rain can play havoc. Then it's just a crapshoot. You spin the dice and see where you end up.
Yeah, absolutely. This is what cost Peugeot the race last year. They seem to had it all in the bag, and then the rains came, and a stellar drive through the night, particularly by McNish and Christensen, took that car to the victory there. So just looking at our 4 class leaders, Pierre Caffer's car there. Let's just remind you, we talked to Pierre Caffer in the pits, didn't have the chance to catch up on that, but Pierre, 32 years old now, he was brought in as a junior for Audi way back in 2004.
He was, yeah.
He won 2 races that year, driving for Velox UK Audi, and became LMES, as it was then, vice champion. But then sort of rather faded a bit more. He'd come out of Porsche Supercup. We'd not really seen him in Europe, had we? He was a German wunderkind that we'd not really noticed. Who is this, we all said. But he's now settled down to be a great GT driver, and of course he's been embedded with Risi in America for some races, won at Sebring this year, which is very, very something that's very, very important when you're considering Le Mans, because, you know, if they can come here with Pierre Caffer, pull off the double, Sebring and the Le Mans 24 hours, that just really underlines what a good driver he's become.
Yeah, I think the thing is now you look at how established both Jaime Mello and Mika Salo have become as Ferrari GT2 drivers. Obviously there's a number of drivers that you could look at, including some very good British drivers like Andrew Kirkcaldy and Rob Bell, Tim Mullen, these kind of guys. But what Caffer is you were talking about, you know, or Martin was making the point about the Porsche factory drivers, how they've got this wonderful completeness about them, both on the track, off the track, their attitude, and Caffer's that kind of driver. He's got that kind of approach, that professionalism, and he's still, you know, he looks good, he talks good, he's got that kind of, you know, you'd want him in your team as a PR, from a PR man, as you've been for many years. But he's a kind of PR man's dream, isn't he?
Yeah, no, he's very, very personable. I mean, and the depth in GT2 is what's astounded me this year. The depth of driving quality, it's as good as the LMP1 quality. I mean, you have got all the world's top GT2 drivers here, and these guys are all superstars, they're all winners, you know.
Push that button, it works. Quickly on the email from Estonia, Henrik Hein wanted to know what happened to the number 13 car. Did it crash? No, it's still ignoring the fact that it looks to be unlucky. You see Serge Saunier on the left, who's the team boss here, and the boss of Peugeot, Olivier Canel. The 13 car still in 6th place overall. That is last year's Lola chassis Aston Martin engine combination. That was the Charus team car from last year's Le Mans series, and Nicolas Prost is at the wheel of that, 6th place, and he is 36 seconds ahead of Charles Schwartzman in the number 14 Collins Audi. So it's a good battle there for a top 6 finish. That's
turned around because, of course, earlier on we were watching Andrea Bellici catching that Schwartzman Audi. Now they've gone past and they've changed drivers. Nick Prost, 3:33 his last lap, so that's by no means a slow pace that he's running. Car's best time, in fact, was 3:31, set by Bellici, and Bellici's been on fire all weekend, hasn't he? Wow, he was so impressive in qualifying, jumping over the curbs perhaps a couple of times too many, but in the race as well, huge pace. But Nicolas, we have to say, only 2 seconds off his best lap.
Yeah, Belici's been very quick during the night as well, and that car, that's a really good-looking combination, and I'm sure if Nicolas Prost gets invited back next year, they're going to have a much more rounded driver, because he'll have learned so much from spending so much time in the cockpit with guys that really know what they're doing.
So did you get that in Estonia?
Yeah, hopefully so.
Anyone else there, Martin?
Oh yeah, loads of people. But, let's carry on looking here at Peugeot number 7, still on the comeback. I mean, when this car had its major problems, it was down 17th, 18th place. It is now in 7th position, car number 7. Christian Klein came up and chatted to us last night, and he said, okay, well, you know, we know we're not going to win the race, but what we've got to do is go out and drive this thing until it breaks or makes the finish, and it looks like it's going to do the latter. And fastest car in the race, 3 minutes 24.35 is its quickest lap, and at the moment Christian at the wheel doing 3:28, so as quick as anything else out there. That has been the fastest car in the race, and still its regular race pace is below what the ACA were hoping for. So they still have not managed to rein in the diesels enough. All right, the petrol prototypes have closed the gap from the other direction, but the 007, well, 329's just about able to creep below 330. That's about where the ACO need to peg the diesel back to now. Of course, if they do it now for next year, they've got to subtract another 10 or 15%, because engineers react a lot quicker than governing bodies, and they will be ahead again.
But it's going to change anyway the following year. There's going to be a reduction in engine size across the whole spectrum, and diesels will be pegged back to 4.5 litres instead of the 5.5 that they're running at the moment. 4.1 litres in some cases.
Of course, what will happen then, Simon, is that you'll get cars that are slower in a straight line, but just as quick round the corners.
Yeah, well, the point that you made earlier, that we were talking to one of the Pescarolo drivers, I was saying that we're as quick as anything through the corner. So an LMP2 car is a classic case of that. Essentially the same basic configuration chassis-wise, but obviously slightly different aero, maybe slightly other areas affected apart from the power side of things. So it is effectively going to move everything down a sector. But as we've seen with every form of top-line motorsport where there is an ability to innovate, whether it's Formula One or Le Mans prototype, it's all well and good the guys saying, right, that's the lap time that we want, this is how much we want to reduce things, but they obviously always consistently forget of the ingenuity and the application of the guys whose job it is to find that difference.
Yeah, if you want 330, you've got to peg them back to at least 3:35-minute laps, otherwise, you know, on what you know of what they know, otherwise they're going to be another step ahead of you. The poachers are always ahead of the gamekeepers, and it's a great gamekeeper that can keep up, that can keep the regulations, you know, on top of the competitors. And in fact, we might talk a little bit more about that next weekend when we go to Brno for the World Touring Car Championship live on Eurosport. But Thiago Monteiro from the Orica team is next door. We're going to get a quick word with him, drag him in now before he beetles off. That number 10 team has not had the best of luck. They've had, well, pretty much all the bad luck in the car. Olivier Panis currently at the wheel of the number 11 car in 5th position. They had a couple of problems during the night with that car, so we'll get Thiago in and have a quick word with him while we ride on board with the number 7 Peugeot, still lapping pretty consistently quickly. So Thiago, different uniform for you, different location. Welcome again to Eurosport. Have you had a good time at Le Mans despite the problems?
I had an amazing time, really. It's, you know, Le Mans is Le Mans. It's a dream for every driver. It's a dream for all the fans. It's such a special race. Nothing compares to it. So I had a great time in a great team with the great teammates. We had a lot of fun actually these last few weeks. And it's a big change for me, definitely. It's quite a shock coming from WTCC, but I enjoy racing overall anyway.
Well, you're a man that quite likes a shock. You went from Formula One straight into front-wheel drive touring cars. You're doing Dakar cars. You're racing at Le Mans. You're about 20 years too late. You should have been born in the 50s and racing in the 60s and 70s when drivers were allowed to race everything.
I've been told that already, apparently. So yeah, I heard that a few years ago it was a lot easier and a lot more normal to do that. I'm passionate about the sport, you know, anything that has 4 wheels and even 2 wheels as well. So, you know, it's anything that's an engine actually and goes a bit fast. But yeah, I like to try things. I'm really a fan of all these big events like Dakar again, and after Formula One, I need to find something that could give me a lot of adrenaline, still a lot of pleasure, professionalism as well. So WTCC was perfect, to be honest. Of course, it's slower. It's not as fast and not as much power. But hey, it's manufacturers. It's a world championship. Amazing drivers there, and you had a lot of fun.
We'll come back to you in a second. We're just hearing from another touring car driver, Tom Coronel.
So it seems all right. So we start to drive maybe a little bit slower because behind us we're 4 laps in front. So to the people next door, the Ferrari from Mansell, and yeah, that's too long. It's only 4 hours to go. So we just tried to save the car. The car seems to be nice to us, and we're nice for the car. So yeah, keep the fingers crossed. But we should try to finish.
So you're happy for your 9th Le Mans?
Oh yes. It's until now we are very happy. It's running unbelievable. I mean, we need to have the mistakes of others. That's our benefit, because the car is reasonably fast, but not as fast as the Ferraris and the Porsches. But the Porsches had a lot of difficulties. They all dropped out, and some Ferraris also. We saw them with flat tires. We saw them with rim problems, and yeah, we've had zero problems. And that's how we slightly start to improve. We start, what was it, P11, and now we're running P6. So not too bad.
Good job. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
So there's another Seat driver. Of course, you'll be racing with him again next weekend in Brno. What's the next challenge then? Would you come back to Le Mans next year if somebody invited you?
Definitely. You know, I mean, it's the first time I've run in LMP1 in Le Mans. It's really something. It's really amazing, the speed of those cars in this track, fighting with all these amazing cars as well. So I want to come back definitely in a prototype if possible. Yeah.
Welcome back to Le Mans here live on Eurosport. Peugeot leading 1-2 from Audi after no less than, where are we now, Liz? 21 hours of racing almost completed. 3:47 to go.
There's not much left, is there? I mean, it's getting very exciting. This is the point when you're really stressed out, especially if it's been going quite well, like it has for Peugeot. You start to think, when are the problems going to kick in? When is it going to happen? Now it's just keep hold of the cars, keep them going as fast as you need to, but not any quicker. Look after them, bring them home to the finish.
So Liz Halliday rejoining us now in the cabin as we go on the run-in, as we say, on the last, getting on for 3 hours, 3.5 hours to go, 3 hours 40 in fact to go. Liz, you've been wandering around the paddock in the break. What have you seen?
Well, I mean, it's definitely settling down in there. We're seeing the leftover empty garages of those that are packing up and going away, which is always a bit sad at Le Mans. I've had a quick chat with David Brabham, who obviously is driving the leading Peugeot car at the moment. He said basically they're pleased with the car, but they are having to look after it. They're definitely not pushing it any more than they have to. He said they're keeping it fast enough to stay in the lead, but not any more than that. They've also said if it rains, they're absolutely happy this year. I know last year the Peugeot was not so good in the wet. He said this year it's dialed in, not going to be a problem. Certainly not for Brabs, it won't be a problem.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're starting to do the maths already. If David Brabham was to win, and it's a big if still, remember, because everything going on, but if he was to win, the first brothers to have both won Le Mans, and both with the same manufacturer, of course. His brother Jeff back in 1992, and David this year. But then even more remarkably, their father Sir Jack Brabham, the Grand Prix driver, never actually won here at Le Mans. 62 Grand Prix drivers won here at Le Mans, but Jack Brabham never. But he did win the only French Grand Prix to be held here on the Bugatti circuit in 1968. So that would be the most remarkable hat-trick.
It would be incredible, and I'm sure that he's thinking that in his head. I'm sure it's not far from his mind. Also, you know, David's not done really that much in this car, so to come straight out to Le Mans, win sort of on one of his first debuts in it. They did bring David in for the experience level because he has done so many endurance races, and I think that's showing through now.
Yeah, and of course one of the reasons they chose him, he won GT1 here last year.
Well, of course.
Huge battle between Aston and Corvette. Aston came out on top. David led that team to victory, and again that would be quite a remarkable achievement to win GT1, you know, the king class of GT1 year, and then win LMP1, the king class of prototypes, the following year.
2 years in a row, yeah, that would be a huge thing for him, and I think that just proves exactly what David Brabham is in the endurance racing world. I mean, he really has done it all. He's raced every single class. He has won in every single class, I believe now, you know, around the world in his various GT and prototype experiences. So he really is a stalwart in this sport, and I think be a super winner.
Yeah, and of course there's another career opportunity opening up for him because he is embedded in Worth Engineering at Bicester. He does a lot of their simulation work from the Acura program. Worth, together with Manor Motorsport, getting a Formula 1 entry now, so David, I'm sure, will be involved in that program in some way.
Absolutely, we'll have to ask him that next. I'm hoping we can maybe get hold of him up here, but I think he's got other duties at the moment, trying to figure out what's happening. When we asked him, we said, oh, what's the plan now, David? He said, well, I'm just on my way to find out. So we won't know that.
Yeah, we have touched on Formula 1 in the night, Simon. We had Martin Brain up here from Lola, a little bit unhappy, but very diplomatic about the fact that Lola's entry's been turned down. So is ProDrive's, although David Richards doesn't want to talk about that. Epsilon Iscardi, a number of the front-running Le Mans teams didn't come here this year because they're concentrating on their Formula 1 bid, which at the moment has been unsuccessful. All very, very political, of course, and the three teams that were chosen, I think, surprised most people hugely. USA, Formula 1, the Mana Motorsport, and then Campos. But I'm sure that's going to change over the next week. There's obviously a lot of posturing going on.
I think Campos and USA F1 I kind of get. I understand. I think USA F1 has had a lot of momentum behind it, and there's obviously, as Liz will know, a lot of thought of trying to get the Americans really into F1 again, because it's always been a bit, the Grand Prix was, you know, the whole 2005, interesting having Thiago Montero up here from, of course, got a podium at India in 05 when it all went a bit wrong, and that damaged Formula 1 really badly in the States, Liz, didn't it? So to get an F1 team in there and doing well could be significant.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, that was a disaster. I think we were at Le Mans when that was happening, actually, during that race.
Just looking at Alan McNish in the pits, third place car, if you're just joining us, the Audi. Alan is 2 laps down on our race-leading Peugeot. They've had a lot of problems, a lot of issues with muck getting in the radiators, intercoolers, but they're not cleaning anything. It's just purely a splash and dash, so that's looking very good at the moment.
Yeah, clearly the car's working as well as it's worked all day. That's certainly the lap times that Alan has been turning has been as quick as anyone. The man who's really impressed me in this recent run has been Christian Klier. In fact, he's impressed me all week and had really learnt from last year, where I remember him putting the car in the gravel in the middle of the night, and that was a case. We were talking about how Audi are very much a family. They work so well together. Last year, Peugeot had that element of having 9 superstar individual drivers who in their own way were all very, very good, but you didn't really get the feeling of them gelling. This year, that seems to be a very different kind of set of circumstances.
Jack Hicks made a very good point last night, Liz. He said everyone who comes to Le Mans only comes here with the aim of winning. That's the first target. But he said, even for a rookie, you come here as a rookie. If you finish the 24 hours, you leave here as a veteran.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very good point. Very good point.
I think that's got to be. I mean, everybody wants to win every race. I think you can't be in motorsport if you don't want to win every time. You have to at least try. But certainly finishing Le Mans is a massive accomplishment. And I think once you've done that, like you say, you're a vet. It's like you've got a whole nother view on it. It's like, you know, I've only finished Le Mans twice. I've started 3 times, but having finished in 4th in LMP2, I now have different aspirations for Le Mans. Now I sit there and I say, well, I don't want to go just to finish. I want to go to be on the podium. You know, it's like you really feel like you've got another level, and right, we'll go to the pits.
We've got Olivier Panis. Justine just catching him. Well, everything's going right at the moment. You know, we're well placed. We're leading the Open Petrol division, and Nick Lapierre has got us up into 5th place.
Vous avez vraiment fait une course très intelligente, restez tranquille. Vous saviez que la pointe de vitesse, vous ne l'aviez pas forcément pour aller chercher les diesels, et vous avez attendu.
Well, your strategy was to.
C'était vraiment une super stratégie d'équipe.
Oui, c'est une super stratégie. Les 3 pilotes sont assez proches en performance, donc c'est vrai que ça aide beaucoup aussi par rapport peut-être à d'autres équipes.
Performance has been really good. The car's been very, very strong, and as you can see, to be running 5th here at Le Mans. With 3 hours to go, very, very encouraging for us.
Oui, c'est vrai, c'est dommage, c'est toujours dommage qu'on voulait vraiment finir avec les 2 voitures. Bon, c'est la course, hein, c'est comme ça, c'est difficile. Maintenant, on espère, pour remercier toute l'équipe, finir avec celle-là.
On croise les doigts pour vous, merci.
We expected to get all the work done, and we just hope to do the job and finish the race. Well, it has been a very, very hard race, hasn't it, for Hugh de Schonak's team, the Oreca Matmut team. They've been a front-running squad in the Le Mans series, but when they came here after qualifying the other night, the team was just nowhere. They were so far down the order, and I just wondered what the problems were, aerodynamic, or were they just sandbagging?
Well, another team much like the R15s that really haven't had an awful lot of time to get the best out of the car. Yes, they've been doing some LMP stuff in the LMES, but also they've had some pretty disastrous runs in terms of Senna writing a car off, and all these kind of things have been going on, so they haven't really had the chance to build on the foundations that they perhaps would have done had things run smoothly.
Yeah, and the other problem, of course, they started the year with basically what was their Courage, and then for the first race, but by Spa it was the brand new car. As you say, Simon, they just had to do the program all over again and get that car working.
Yeah, and it's a very bold program from Hughes de Schonak, and although there's a very good level of investment there, it's not on a patch of the sort of thing that the factory teams can put into it. So you are asking an awful lot. I mean, what would be an interesting thing is if you could take that kind of chassis and perhaps have the opportunity to run with a Peugeot diesel engine in it, for example. Whether that could be adapted that easily, is it that simple? I don't know. I'm not that good as an engineer, but that kind of logic you could sort of see working, because it's happened before. Lola do it brilliantly with their prototypes, where you see the mixture of an LMP1, LMP2, different engines, different configurations. So who can tell? As we look on board with the fastest man at Le Mans this year, last year and the year before, Stéphane Sarrazin, 3 times pole sitter, possibly one of the most, if not the most versatile driver, a bit of a modern day Vic Elford, would you say?
Yeah, you say the fastest man at Le Mans this year, that's in qualifying, of course, but in the race it's actually the other Peugeot that Nick Manassian has set the fastest race lap so far. That's a 3:24.3. Sarrazin's best, a 3:24.8, but half a second round here. Not a whole difference, is it, Liz?
No, it's not. And going back to Eureka, apparently the number 10 car that they've been driving is the same car that Bruno Senna rode off at Spa. So basically not a good luck car for them. It's come back here, it had a bunch of accidents before they even gave up, and you know, full credit to that team, because the first accident, it was amazing. They were back on track in 25 minutes when the car was basically completely dismantled, had the floor off, the wing, everything. So we give them credit for doing everything they can to have gotten that car through, but certainly a bit of a bad luck chassis, I think, on that one.
Just looking at LMP2 classification there, still Porsche, no change there as expected, and that number 33 Speedy Sabah Lola Judd Coupe, that car's just done such a good performance throughout the race this year, and very, very reliable, very strong. Full credit to Lola, and just a shout for all the guys at Huntingdon. I'm sure a lot of you have been up all night watching what's going on, and keep at it, boys, doing a good job.
Yeah, it's been impressive, as we know the job that Lola can do consistently. They've done it over the years, and it's as always testament to the quality of the engineer. And as Olivier Quesnel's talking to Franck Montagny, who's I'm guessing probably in not that long going to be taking over from Alex Wurz. Sarrazin, I think, is due in fairly soon as well, and Pedro Lamy now on board the 7 car, which is 33 seconds behind the number 14 Collis Audi that Andre Lotterer is currently driving. In fact, now it's showing he's just got himself ahead, so that could be a pit stop change, so we could see all 3 of the Peugeots in the top 6 before not too long.
Very good point. Yeah, it's coming very much their way, isn't it? Lapierre obviously is a spanner in the works in that Eureka car, but see how they move up. Pedro Lamy then, Lotterer fighting 7th and 8th with Prost just ahead of them in the Lola. We're going to take a break. Liz Halliday, Simon Hill, Mark Cole here, live for Eurosport from Le Mans. We'll be back with lots more. Still 3.5 hours to go.
Welcome back to the Le Mans 24 hours. It is all going on here. We are about 3.5 hours from the end of this race. Seems like we've been here forever, but it's finally on its way. Peugeot is still leading 1 and 2, with Audi clawing their way up from 3rd place.
Oh, a bit of a close move there. 33 car, the Speedy Sabre car, which has been running very, very well. It's currently sitting 3rd in class. Benjamin Leuenberger on board that car at the moment. A fairly close pass, but that's indicative of the fact that, as you've just said, Liz, we're getting into the last part of the race, the final part, the really crucial part, because so many teams and drivers have done such a good job, but at the moment, still a long way to go. Looking out of our window, the flags opposite us on the top of the grandstand are fairly still, so a fairly humid, close. There's not any wind blowing any potential.
Now you talk to me, I would like to know as well. But I know we changed the steering wheel, so he has an electronic problem on the steering wheel. But of course, when an Audi goes to the garage, it will be fixed. So now it's okay again.
Yeah, okay, I'll let you go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Apologies for that. We weren't aware that we were going to hear from Tom straight away, but always nice to hear from TK, the most successful Le Mans driver in history. Now, Liz, you've been in a situation as a driver at Le Mans, this stage of the race, whether you're in the car or whether you're in the pits watching what's going on. I'm sure if the car's running at this point, you're now starting to get to the thing, what are we going to do? Do we keep pushing? Do we back off? What's the logic?
What you start doing is praying for time to speed up so that you can see the checkered flag and actually be there running. Certainly it's all dependent on what state your car is in, what problems you've had, you know, how efficiently the gearbox is running, how happy the engine is. All of that is down to your team who's been managing this absolutely intricately throughout the entire race. So there will be team orders in this case based on how good the car is. Hopefully, if things are running well, you should just go at a pace you're absolutely comfortable with and you can do safely and bring it home to the end. But a lot of teams now looking after the car, making sure that they're going to get there to that checkered flag.
Well, we've got a really interesting situation just in the top few LMP1 cars, in that we've just talked a little bit about the number 7 Peugeot looking very, very close to being in their top 6 now. It's 18.4 seconds behind the 13 car, which is currently 6th, and they're lapping about 9 seconds a lap quicker. So on that logic, it's going to be just a matter of 2, maybe 3 laps at the most before potentially Pedro Lamy will be in the top 6. But similarly, it's not that far then before he could potentially be in a position to challenge the Orica car, the car that's done such a solid job, the 11 car that currently Nicolas Lapierre is on board, as we see Serge Saunier, the boss of this operation, talking to his driver Marc Chenet. What a tremendous job Marc has done over the years for Peugeot.
He has. He's done an incredible job, and you know, coming in for the LMS series and for Le Mans, he's always been so quick, no matter what the conditions are. Fantastic in traffic. Always done such a solid job at Le Mans as well. And going back to the number 7 car, I think right now, obviously, they're pushing as hard as they can to sort of claw back the spaces they've lost. And I'm sure that in the back of their minds, all of those drivers and Pedro Lamy, they're thinking, what could have been if there hadn't been that accident early on, that silly accident in pit lane. Just not the place for it to happen, and they could be right up there in the lead right now.
Definitely would be right amongst it, wouldn't they, Liz?
Be a 1-2-3 Peugeot, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. We've seen the situation. They were way out of the top 20, I think, in the early stages of the races, and it just shows you combination of working very hard. They're changing the steering wheel. That's what we saw Tom Christensen talking about. Lots of smiling faces in the pit lane at Audi. I think they're happy that they've got a car that's being competitive. So Ralf Juttner coming in and talking to the boys, making sure they know what's going on. And we saw briefly a shot there of the 63 car, which is the car that's leading its class currently. It's been consistently there all the way through. Johnny O'Connell, Jan Magnussen and Antonio Garcia. Well, O'Connell and Magnussen, stalwarts of the Corvette organisation. Garcia won his class here last year in the factory Aston Martin DBR9S, of course, with David Brabham's currently leading overall. So could be a pretty good year for those boys, collectively and respectively in their cars.
I think it could be, and we've been saying that Antonio might just become a bit of a good luck charm if he can win in 2 different makes 2 years in a row. Certainly he is a fantastic driver in the GT1 class and in anything that he gets in. We've got the number 1 Audi in pit lane. Let's see if this is routine. It does look routine. They don't look too stressed. Alan McNish in that car. It's going into the garage. Now, could this be just to clean out the radiator screens again, things like that, where TK said earlier that this was just normal and they could do it quickly, or is it a problem?
It's out of the car now, so that could mean that there's something in the cockpit area that needs to be looked at. Looking at Nishi is lots of pointing and waving, going on, come on, sort something out. Seat comes out, TK getting in, or was that Dindo getting in? Couldn't quite see. I think it's Dindo, isn't it, Liz? So Dindo Capello, another very solid pair of hands going into the car. And wondered if that was always going to be the case. Sometimes they put the car in the garage to allow more people to work on the car, because as we've said several times throughout the race, this new rule where only two guys are allowed to work on the car. So once it's in the garage, they can do a little bit more to it.
Well, certainly we've seen with the Audi, this number 1 car, they've brought that into the garage quite a lot lately. As the race has gone on, they've basically been bringing it in to clean up the inside of the car with this big new scoop nose. It's been really sucking in debris off the circuit, so they've been bringing it in. Looks like we're going to hopefully get an interview with Alan McNish in a minute here. We'll give him a minute to get his helmet off, get cooled off, but hopefully we will get to have a word with him and see if there is actually a problem in that Audi, or if this is just another routine clean where they can get all of the crew members on the car at once.
Well, it does look like there's something being worked on the right-hand side from the driver's perspective of the car. A new set of Michelin slicks going on, as you'd expect, really. I think that's pretty much de rigueur. Whenever they can, they're going to put new tyres on the car. They need to push that hard, and especially now, it looks like time's ticking away from them. I don't think they're certainly under no danger in terms of speed of losing that 3rd place. They're 5 laps ahead of the 007 Aston, so unless they have some major dramas, there's no way they're going to lose that. But it does mean that the possibility of challenging for 2nd is looking far more difficult for the Audi team. And I think Peugeot are in a situation now, they're both running at about the same pace. Wirtz 3:30.8, Sarrazin 3:30.2. they've found their groove. They know what they need to do now.
Well, this is a dream come true for Peugeot, and a lot of people, myself included, were saying, no, I think it's going to be another year for Audi, just because Audi has won this so many times. They know how to do it, but, you know, fair dues to Peugeot. They've gone away, they've done their homework, they've figured out where they went wrong last year and where the weaknesses are, and they have solved them, and now we've got a 1-2, and like we said before, it could be a 1-2-3 if there hadn't been that silly accident. So, you know, it's very rare that you see Audi have so many problems with their cars early on like they did. The number 1 car has been quite solid throughout for the most part, but certainly big problems in the number 2 and the 3 early on, which we never would have expected.
Just atypical of Audi. You know, the one manufacturer that throughout the years has always been pretty solid, pretty much there, has been Audi. In terms of logistics, in terms of the driver standard, in terms of just about everything you could imagine. Of course, the R8, when it was racing, the petrol R8 had that fantastic statistic of never having a mechanical failure when it was racing at Le Mans, which is just remarkable.
I think the R8 was a very, very special car. I think that they all regard it that way. All the drivers who've been involved really do regard that as one of the best cars ever. We're just watching a car spinning off here at Arnage, a very, very slippery corner. Always been one to catch drivers out, especially late in the day when they're tired. The track becomes very polished there. It's just the slightest bit of late braking, that bit too late, and you're off.
Yeah, Johnny Molan was explaining to us earlier that it's partly where it's a junction, like a T-junction on a normal road, as it usually used for, like any T-junction that we all drive on day to day. You get huge build-up of rubber, you know, everything from the family saloon to a truck's going through there normally. Suddenly racing cars on racing tyres, and they're braking hard, and it's a 90 right, and all these factors. Plus, you can see that was the Jet Alliance Aston, so fairly easy car to lock the rears if you're a little bit tired, make a mistake over the bumps there, and we all see what happens with race drivers at this stage of the day. And those guys in that car have had a very tough day as well, a very difficult race for them. So you can imagine the stress factor is probably quite high in the car.
It is, and the Aston Martin is a tricky car to drive, the DBR9, especially on a low downforce setting, which it's on. You really need to work on the weight balance in that car. That's the way you've got to drive it. You've got to drive it based on where the front end and the rear end weight is at all times. You can't just stamp on it. You've got to sort of massage the car a bit to get the best out of it. And that corner would be a tricky one with that car.
Yeah, exactly, and the key thing also, we don't know at this stage whether they've had some issues with handling of the car or braking, anything like this. We can only surmise from what we can see up here, but certainly, as we know, they've been one of the teams that have got, you know, the kind of brave fighting spirit award from us up here in the comment box. We like to see the never say die attitude in Jet Alliance guys. We know there's a lot of ability in the team, logistically, organisationally, but sometimes it's just not your race.
Yeah, the race is going away for them now very rapidly. They're 4 laps down. It's going to be 5 in a minute, and this is the point, 11:30 Sunday morning, I think, where Peugeot has been handed that victory they've been craving for the last 3 years. They always say it takes 3 years to win Le Mans with the new programme. It took Peugeot 3 years back in the late 80s, and they did it in 92, 93, and here we are again. I think you're going to have to say at this point, one Peugeot or the other is going to win this race.
Well, I mean, looking at the respective gaps, if you look at it now, it's coming 4 laps now. I think Burt's has on McNish, so they could even afford to drop their pace by 4 or 5 seconds a lap. The danger there, as we've seen before with racing drivers. Remember, we had Nigel Mansell up here. Remember, he famously lost the Grand Prix win back in Canada in '91 by basically cruising on the last couple of laps and didn't change down the gears earlier. The semi-automatic gearbox in its early days in an F1 car stalled the car, effectively lost the win. That's the sort of thing that can happen when you're cruising too much. You were saying, Liz, as a driver at this stage of the race, yeah, you kind of think, right, is this okay? Is that okay? You listen for every little creak and bang, and oh, hang on, was that car doing what it didn't do that the lap before? But you have to be pushing to a degree, don't you? I
think you have to push to a level where you're still using your brain. You've got to stay switched on. If you get too casual, then you'll make mistakes. And we've got big problems here for this Ferrari. This is not good. This is the Ferrari with Rob Bell. We're not sure who's in the car at the moment. Is the Kirkcaldy, Rob Bell and Tim Sugden car.
The transponders haven't worked the whole race, so we've
struggled to figure out who's in it.
I think that
looks like, is there a tire?
Showing it's Rob. Yeah,
it says Rob Bell, but it looks to me like Tim Sugden's crash on it, but I can't really see from here. It looks like
they've had a big impact somewhere.
Yeah. It's the wheel, not the tyre, isn't it? Yeah.
We saw almost exactly the same thing happen earlier on with the 99 car, of course. That left rear corner just disintegrated and fell apart. So you wonder perhaps if there's something in the way that they've run the cars that perhaps highlights that they had to run the car on the limit in terms of the suspension setting. Sometimes you put a lot of camber or something like that on the car, and it can make it a bit critical if you get the tiniest bit of contact.
Well, we certainly know, in speaking with Rob Bell earlier and hearing from him, that he said they've run it absolutely maxed out 100% from the driver's standpoint the entire way. That's a hard pull on a car like that. Granted, the Ferrari is an incredibly durable car, but to be pushed at qualifying pace for 24 hours is a big ask.
And this is it for Audi really now. I think this is the race gone away from them.
Well, the big problem then, Simon, is that Aston Martin are closing in. Thomas the Tank Engine on board that Lola Aston Martin 007 car. Now only 3 laps. It's going to be 2 laps in a moment. Here is the car. It's going to be 2 laps behind that Audi. And Audi could finish up being beaten not only by Peugeot but by Aston at this year's Le Mans. We're going for a break. Welcome back to Eurosport. We're looking still at the problems for Audi. They're stuck in the garage still. Alan McNish bought the car in only 4 laps after he'd made a routine stop, at which we actually commented, great, they seem to have got their troubles behind us. It's the kiss of death from Eurosport, because that car's been in the garage now for the past 4 laps. Tom Christensen is strapped in it in board, and the big problem for them is that Thomas Enger in the Lola Aston Martin Golf car is closing down on that car now and is about to go into 3rd place. So we're trying to get reaction from Audi at the moment. Sebastian's down in the pits. Let's see if he can get anything from Audi. We don't know what the problem was at the moment, but it's definitely not cooling, because Simon, when they came in at the last stop, they weren't bothered about that. They weren't clearing any radiators or intercoolers.
Now, you could see also Alan McNish immediately trying to look over his shoulder, trying to sort of get the guys to go there straight away, and it wasn't even a sort of a gentle, let's kind of have a look. It was straight in, engine cover off, all hands on deck kind of thing, which is indicative of something a little bit more significant. You see this scrap still going on for the lead. I mean, look at this stage of the race now. We've still got these 2 guys absolutely hammer and tongs at it, and it looks like this could be a 1969 finish here, Mark. You know, literally cross the line almost nose to tail, and I bet there's an awful lot of pride at stake to be the driver that wins for Corvette in their final appearance at GT1.
This is the bonfire of the Corvettes, isn't it, this weekend? It's the last time we're going to see these cars at Lasat. It's been a long journey, and they've had wins, they've had losses, and they and Aston Martin slugging it out. Of course, Ferrari as well, the Ferrari 550 programme. So they've been a long and honourable career here, and I'm sure a lot of people would be sad to see them going.
Well, absolutely, and they've been split for a lot of this race. They've been sort of separated, and this is more the way Corvette is used to running. They're used to running nose to tail for an entire 24 hours. So it's going to be interesting to hear what's going on down there behind closed doors on the radio, saying how they're being told to manage this, because certainly we don't want one of them to take each other out, but this is a race for the finish now. They've caught each other up. It's between O'Connell and Fassler.
There's no championship at stake.
There isn't.
Doug Finn will probably just say go for it,
boys.
As long as you both finish.
Scrap it out.
Out goes Tom McNish. Tom Christensen with his co-driver Alan Nish. As the Audi goes back out, we're going down to the Audi pit just to find out what exactly is happening. In the meantime, we've been joined by Andy Merrick, the British part of the Collis Audi team. And Andy, good to see you up here again. You must be little bit we'll come back to you in a second. We're just going down to the interview now as Tom immediately spins the car,
it's
leaving
Dindo.
the pits. Dindo, it is, sorry.
The Audi #1 just had a big problem, and we just saw on TV Spawn. You have a chance, real chance, to get a podium now.
Well, you know, we say in English, you never count your chickens. We just keep going at the same pace now, and you know, Thomas is doing 3:35s, which is his target time, and we just go to the end like that, and we see if the race comes to us. But there's nothing we can do to catch the diesel cars.
You had some problems with the 009 and the 008. Are you not scared about the 07 to finish the race?
Of course we are. You know, it's a long race. It's a very tough event, and you're never quite sure what's going to happen. We've had a few technical problems with the other cars, but we did a lot of testing beforehand. We've done a lot of work on the car, and we're as confident as we can be.
And if you are getting a podium, it could be a really big surprise.
Well, let's just wait and see, shall we?
Thank you, crossfinger.
David Richards as optimistic as ever. Those are replays you were seeing, by the way, of earlier incidents. Alex Premat and friends going off in the factory Audi, but driving the Collis Audi in the Le Mans series this year and hoping for a Le Mans drive. Didn't quite come off. Andy Merritt. Andy, good morning. Welcome back to Eurosport.
Yes, hello. I'm just about waking up from my 45 minutes sleep.
Andy, the first question we've got to ask you, because everyone wants to know, is why did Collis not give you some banker laps on Wednesday as you were the reserve driver?
Well, it was the plan. I mean, coming here, as you say, I was the reserve driver, so we were going to try and give me the necessary 10 laps in the free practice on Wednesday, but unfortunately we had a few issues on the Wednesday free practice, a few technical things that sort of cut our programme short, so obviously that was the luxury that the first thing I had to go, so unfortunately I couldn't do the 10 laps, which means I can't be the result, can't drive when the rain pulled out earlier today.
And Tom didn't just pull out, did he? He pulled something out. He was doing a Tarzan act over the pit wall, wasn't he?
It was quite impressive. He was doing his chin-ups over the pit wall. No, it was unlucky, really. He was on the grid and he just needed to go to the bathroom, and instead of walking around, he decided to sort of save a bit of time and pull himself over the pit wall, but in the process of doing so has dislocated his shoulder, which obviously meant he can't drive.
Yeah, looks like, I don't think this is a replay, Liz, is it? Looks like
no, this looks real.
Dindo's got a big problem with that one car. It's not working.
Because that's the second time he's spun now in about one lap, hasn't he?
So, Andy, let's just, as the Corvette's still side by side down the Mulsanne Straight, how difficult has it been for your two young teammates, Charlie Tolsman and
very difficult.
Lotter?
I mean, obviously Charles has been driving the car in the Le Mans series with myself, but you know, you're doing an hour and a half, sort of maybe 2 hours maximum in those sort of races. So it's a big step from that to go and do amount as running he's done. But he's done fantastically. The last stint was quite difficult. We had a few vibrations and a few problems, but I think we may see him get back in for the last hour. It just depends how he feels now.
Andre Lotter at the moment running 8th in the 14 car, your car, and have they done it 12 hours each or?
Yeah, they've been alternating. I mean, we've been doing stints of about 3.5 hours, you know, so it's been very difficult. The problem is, you see, when you've got 3 drivers, you can have somebody on standby. They haven't had the luxury there, so even though they're not in the car and they're trying to get some food, they're still switched on because they can't go far from the garage. If you've got 3 drivers, one of you can go and get some food, have a wash, have a shower, have a debrief, but they haven't got the luxury, so...
Right, we're just going back down to the pit lane. We've got an interview coming up. I didn't quite catch who it was. Liz, did you hear?
I believe it's with McNish.
Alan McNish.
Incredible. What happened exactly?
No.
Yeah, a uniball on the rear axle not failed, but had a lot of play. And when we felt it, by safety we changed the quad of the right rear.
We saw Dindo doing a span. Is it sure it's all fixed?
Yeah, this is all fixed. It's completely new parts now. And all the others have been checked.
Okay, so now you're going to push to keep the 3rd place, I guess.
That's what we are going to do, for sure.
Thank you very much, Dr. Thank you.
How do you push for 3rd place when the car's been spun twice on the outlap? It's obviously not quite
I
fixed.
don't think it is quite fixed. I think that's
something. I think there is something, you know,
I think that's Audi
replaced things, but something's probably gone a little bit wrong when they put the things back on, so it looks like Dindo's struggling there.
Yeah. It's Audi being quite frank about as much as they want to tell us, I think, is what it is it's fixed, end of story, but clearly there's still something wrong there.
Now you guys can't see us in the cabin here. I have to tell you, Andy is wearing the most garish day-glow orange Collis Audi shirt.
Not out of choice.
I mean, it's so bright, we've had to put our sunglasses on.
Matches your socks, Mark.
Yeah, it does, yeah. I've still got my lucky socks on for Le Mans. But Andy, you've been embedded with the team all weekend. You must have learned so much here, and I guess in your mind at the moment, I want to be back here driving.
Oh, it opens your eyes. I mean, coming from single seaters, you obviously you know what Le Mans is, but you don't appreciate it until you come here. And I've looked at it from all different angles. I've looked at it as a driver trying to learn things and going around the circuit, looking at the team setup and seeing what happens throughout the race, but also to as a fan as well. You go down to the campsites and you experience the atmosphere down there, and it is absolutely phenomenal. You can't explain what it's like until you're here and experience it.
Did you get down to Christensen land where the 9,000 Danes are in the campsite?
I didn't want to go down there because I valued my life and coming out, to be honest. I think they...
Tom wouldn't go down there either. He said, no, it's too wild.
It's unbelievable. Now, the support, especially with the Danes, but it's just phenomenal. All the support throughout the circuit is just incredible. But from a driver's point of view, for me, it's been really good. I mean, I've learned, okay, I haven't driven the circuit, but you're so much better prepared for when you come back here for the second time, and you're able to jump in a car hopefully next year.
Yeah. Now, Liz, you've raced here 3 times. You finished once, didn't you?
Finished once, yeah.
But I mean, you know what it's like at this hour. The 3 hours to go. You must be feeling sort of very, very tired, but also beginning to become elated, thinking you are going to finish?
I don't know. I'm someone who, until I actually see the checker flag go with my car passing it, I don't actually believe it's happened. And I was just saying to Simon earlier, this is the point when you start wishing that time would speed up. You start trying to fast forward the actual hours so that you've gotten there, because you've worked so hard and everyone's so tired, and the team's done so much work that you're thinking, surely we deserve it now. But this is the point when cars start to fail as well, you know, they don't always make it, drivers are tired, mistakes start to happen. So certainly as a driver, you're doing everything you can to be absolute precision with the way you drive, everything you can. I think we're going for an interview now, or?
Sounds like it.
Antonio, what an incredible fight.
Yeah, I mean, everything is tight. We've been like this since the beginning. So, yeah, we are just 100% pushing and also defending, because I think both cars want to win the race, so that's the main thing.
How do you manage it in the team? Because it's quite difficult. You are teammates all together.
Yeah, I mean, you need to always to do fair play, but there is no team order. So as far as there is no team radios or orders, we are free to go, and as soon as we are okay with everybody.
The 64 just passed, I think. We just saw on TV.
Okay, I need to make it back.
Yeah, thanks.
So thank you for Antonio Garcia for that, and the flotilla of Corvettes still serenely sails on here around Le Mans. What a great performance. Just unfortunately lost the Luc Alfan car during a heavy accident for Patrick Geuslard yesterday evening. Andy Merrick, while we've got you here, obviously with the Collis team, you've obviously been dipping in and out of the factory Audi team as well, just seeing what's going on there. They must be very, very despondent at this moment.
I think it's a huge disappointment. Obviously their racing program has been really solely focused on Le Mans this year. We're not doing an ALMS or a Le Mans series program, so I think to put all your resources into this one race really and suffer the bad luck they've had is really a big shame.
I mean, it's a new car, and perhaps they were flattered at Sebring winning first time out. Thought, well, this isn't going to be too difficult to win Le Mans as well, and it's come back and bit them.
I think so. I mean, maybe there's a little bit of that. I mean, also when it's Audi, you kind of expect, the impossible. Really, I think if it was most other manufacturers, you think, well, first year there, they're not really got too much of a chance. But with the way that Audi run their program, and they're such a good team, so well organised and so well structured, you kind of think, well, maybe they might be able to come here and pull it off, but. I think the way we're looking at the moment, the Peugeots really have just upped their game this year.
Yeah, well, Andy, let's look forward to you being back here next year. Thank you for joining us, and let's hope your Collis car, which, as we talk at the moment, is in 8th place, still a solid 8th there. Just a chance you could move up a place if we lose that factory Audi.
They've certainly the 14 car have been very good. They've kept out of trouble, no damage. They've done a good solid race, especially with two drivers. I think if they finish in the top 8, that would be a fantastic result for the team.
Before you leave us, anyone back home you want to give a shout to?
I think they'll all be either in bed or too drunk to know, to be perfectly honest.
At least you're honest.
I mean, you did say your dad wouldn't be watching because he weren't racing, but next year.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, he was going to plan on coming down here with me, but no, I think he's a little bit despondent. He's going to stay at home and he'll end up in the garden with my mum probably.
But you've got age. But you've got age on your side. That's the great thing.
Exactly.
Well done.
Exactly.
Thank you, Andy Merrick.
Thanks very much.
Thanks a lot.
We're going to a commercial break in just a moment. The orders here at Le Mans at the moment, Peugeot 1-2, and the lead Peugeot has a massive 7 laps over the number 1 Audi of Dindo Capello, which if it didn't have bad luck would have had no luck at all. Good morning, race fans. If you're just joining us, this is Eurosport live from Le Mans. We're just about to go into the final 3 hours of the 77th edition of the 24. And the news as you join us, well, if you didn't already know it, Peugeot 1-2 from Audi at the moment. The bad news for Audi, though, they've dropped 7 laps back from the leading number 9 Peugeot. And chasing the Audi of Dindo Capello now is none other than Thomas Enger in the Gulf Lola Aston Martin. There is Peter Mucker, father of Stefan Mucker, who's on sharing that car with Thomas Enger. We had David Richards on air just a few minutes ago, a little bit quiet about it all. I think he's hoping against hope that they can make it a Peugeot Lola Aston Martin podium. Get that down.
I'm sure.
Sorry, haven't got my Sunday teeth in yet. And that they can actually knock Audi off the podium at Le Mans. That'd be the first time since they've ever been here.
It's definitely possible. I mean, Audi's had some problems, and we heard Dr. Ulrich saying everything is fixed, but we definitely saw Dindo Capello having some problems out there on the circuit, so we'll just have to wait and see what's going to happen next with that. But certainly not the way Audi wanted this race to go.
Yeah, it was a rear suspension. He called it uniboil joint. We used to call them rose joints in the old days. But still, it's a suspension joint. Dr. Ulrich said hadn't actually failed, but was on the way out. It was flapping about and giving him a lot of concern at the back of the car. Well, there is the number 8 car of Sarrazin. That's the second place car at the moment and second fastest car in this race. And we've just been talking about the Corvettes. We've just been talking about Johnny O'Connell. We're just saying it's a shame we haven't seen Ron Fellows this year. He should come into the commentary cabin. Jeremy Shaw bring him up.
Lo and behold, here he is.
Yeah. So Liz Halliday just been taking the thread through, Ron, about team orders, because we've got a hell of a battle going on at the moment. And are there going to be any in this final appearance of the GT1 Corvettes at Le Mans?
The only team order, the only team order is do not hit each other.
Excellent.
And the 2 Corvettes are a little bit out of sequence at the moment. Johnny's running his the 63 car is on its second stint on the Michelins, and Marcel Fassler in the 64 is on fresher tires. And you can see his mid-turn speed and his exit are just a little bit better, and that's the difference right now. But it's still going to play out to where inside the last 3 hours how the pit stops shake down, because again they are out of sequence, and changing tires is especially with the new 1 air gun, two tire man rule. It's about 22, 23 seconds as opposed to 10 or 11.
Yeah, we were hoping to see the ballet that Audi gave us from the Corvette guys, but you haven't quite got it right yet, have you? You do too much line dancing. This is the trouble.
Well, we certainly were noticing that Marcel Fassler was just that tiny bit quicker at times than Johnny O'Connell, and I was saying it, Johnny O'Connell is so quick. There has to be a reason for that, and certainly if they're out of sequence with tires, that will be interesting when we have the pit stops. And Ron, you of course no stranger to winning at Le Mans, 2 times winner in the GT1 class. So what would it mean to especially Antonio Garcia as well, a second year in a row, and his first time with Corvette to win here today?
Well, that's why he's here.
Yeah, because he'd like to win again, yes. And he knows that you're the ticket.
The Corvettes are obviously very strong, very reliable, and with my semi-retirement, I guess you want to say, opened up a spot, it's a little different to be on the other side of the fence, so to speak. But I've seen things in the paddock that I never saw before in the previous 9 years. The amount of focus and concentration you put into this race is so difficult that you have your blinders on as soon as you come into the gate, because you're so focused on preparing mentally, making sure that you've got lots of rest, properly hydrated, lots of carbs, and that's kind of it. And you just have blinders on for everything else. And this is really a cool place.
You're welcome to stay. But Ron, I mean, this must be quite an emotional weekend for you. You're the one sort of constant, along with Doug Fearn, in the Corvette program. You're the guy who did all the initial testing, got the Corvettes working. So you've been there right through it. And so how do you feel today, knowing this is the last appearance of the Canaries?
Yeah, it's not necessarily the end of anything. It's the end of our GT1 effort, which has been incredibly successful, and I've been thrilled to be part of it with Gary Pratt, Jim Miller, and the entire Corvette race team. But we're looking at the big picture is GT2, going up against Porsche and Ferrari. Essentially, unfortunately, it appears we've kind of run the competition out of GT1. And we're excited about the future. We're having real competitive races. The cars are only 3, 4, or 5 seconds slower, and I can tell you the GT2 Corvette is a beautiful piece of art.
Yeah, we have been talking about it, and of course also just the black cloud hanging over all that might or might not have been General Motors problems at the moment. But is that going to cause any knock-on effect?
Well, there's certainly been some major budget adjustments, but we continue to showcase the pride of General Motors and Chevrolet And you know, you can't stop marketing, and that's what we're doing. And the return on investment for General Motors and the Corvette program is extremely high. That's why we're continuing, although at a reduced schedule.
Well, certainly I think the fan base at the American Le Mans Series will be very excited to see the GT2 program coming to life. Obviously such a huge part of the American Le Mans Series. Corvette has always been that way. We were just talking earlier about how the line for the autograph session is always longer than anything else. And all of the American Le Mans Series races, it is American racing at its peak. So we'll be very excited to see what comes through with that.
I can tell you that last night I was in the European Corvette Club Corral last night, and they are an extremely passionate Corvette group, whether they're from Denmark, they're speaking French, and there's some Scots with some Z06s, Brits. It was awesome. That's the first time I spent an extended period of time, you know, talking about Corvettes.
Fantastic.
That's the Canadian coming out.
Yeah,
So Ron,
meager attempt, yes.
Yeah, I mean, of course, and then the final thing, of course, on the GT2 program is you put Patrick Dempsey in the car, and that's it. You're made. You get all the publicity.
I don't think they need that. They have enough publicity already, actually.
I mean, we do wish you huge luck with the GT program. We've loved having you all here over the years, and
thank you.
You know, it's been such an exciting program. You've just brought that extra sort of bubble to Le Mans, haven't you?
Well, you know, it took a couple of years to be accepted. The ground pounding V8 was a very different sound for the Le Mans crowd, and you know, we went from with the officials being very standoffish and no to now it's all hugs and kisses. So it's been great to see, you know, that between seeing the Corvette caricatures on windows in downtown Le Mans and a picture of the Corvette printed on the bus tickets. It's just been an incredible ride, and it just shows what this race means, you know, not only just locally but globally. It's just an awesome event, and so kind of missed driving in it. But
you'll be back either as a factory team or privateers. You'll be back.
Oh yes. Corvettes are made to race.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Ron. It's been super to have you.
Thank you. And all the best. May the car you want to win this afternoon.
Either a black one or a yellow one. How about that?
As long as they win, it's fine.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Ron. Well,
thank you.
Well, now 2 hours 56 left to go. Peugeot 1-2. If you're just joining us, a 7-lap lead for Marc Genet, who's racing that car with David Brabham, and this of course is the car that was bought in as the sort of the hare against the other two cars. They wanted these guys to set the pace, didn't they? But they have set the pace and they're leading the race. That's been the big surprise.
It has, and it's been this way since the beginning, basically. It's not been the dicey, you know, problems brought to them, anything like that we thought it would be. It's basically been dominated by Peugeot. And as we've said before, it could have been dominated by all three had there not been that accident in pit lane early on in the race.
Yes. One mustn't overlook that. That was a massive blow to Peugeot's hopes early on, but it's come back to them, and Sébastien Bourdais now on board the number 8 car in second place. I'm sure that Peugeot want him to finish in that car because he is Mr. Le Mans, of course, as well as multiple Champ Car champion, and the only current Formula 1 driver for some years to race at Le Mans. He'll be doing his job at Silverstone next week in the Toro Rosso team, and so we wish Sébastien all the best for that.
Patrick Dempsey waiting to get back in the car for what looks like it will be his final stint at Le Mans. He's had a fantastic time here, and what an accomplishment for this team full of rookie drivers here today. They've done a really solid race. They've maybe not been the fastest, but they've kept it going around. They've had very, very few problems. I'm not even sure if they've been off for anything. I've not seen any problems with that car so far. So really, we've got to give them a good hands up for that, because they've really worked hard.
And the team, Simon was very, very impressed when he went out and did a double stint last night, came back, and they were, I think, more impressed than they realised they would be.
Yeah, they were. I've just said hello to my friend Jeroen Blekemolen, and it's just for once our German commentator friends. Normally we have a bit of a running joke last night. Every time that they got a driver up to interview, I stole them off of them because knowing that they all speak brilliant English. And I said,
well, we will get Jeroen in hopefully on the way back, because the crowds and a lot of people on our websites just absolutely love the Spiker, the 6th Audi.
Yeah, the 6th Audi. And I mean, again, you know, the point you made there, and Liz made about the Dempsey car, been brilliant, great job. Joe Foster and Don Kitch and Patrick himself, all a really solid, sensible job. But again, the Spiker team, I mean, we've seen them have problems in the past, reliability and things. Gave me a single car effort, 3 very, very good drivers in Coronel, in Blekemolen and in Yanis. And they've just done a great job. They've really been impressive, haven't they?
They've made a few people eat their words, I think, because what a lot of people say, there's so much love for the Spiker here, I think, because it is a different car. It's got a very unique sound, but certainly a lot of people have said, oh, well, the Spiker always breaks. The Spiker never makes it. And the Spiker has done the job so far. I hope I'm not giving them the Eurosport curse of death, but they've been going around. They've not had any major problems.
It's been the most reliable Audi.
It has. It's been, the reason why we haven't seen much is because it hasn't had that much drama.
Yeah.
It's just been going round and round. So I really hope for their sake that they can make all those people eat their words and finish strongly.
Yeah, another car we just saw go through our shot there was the black relentless back Stracker being driven by Danny Watts, a man who Jeroen Blekemolen knows well from Porsche Super Cup.
Yes, of course.
Racing last year. They've done a tremendous job to get that car going round as well.
Well, I think we're going for a break. If we're not, we're going for an interview. So one or the other.
I think we're going to be leaving Eurosport and going to Eurosport International.
Okay.
So for those of you who are going to join us in a few minutes, we'll see you there. So welcome back to Eurosport International. Those of you who have been following us on Eurosport 2, you'll know the excitement that is Le Mans. The sun has come back out again, so the threat of rain appears to Liz Halliday and Mark Cole abated for the very immediate future, and I'm sure that Peugeot will be breathing a sigh of relief, because that's the one thing that we think could have maybe thrown a massive spanner in the works, Mark.
Yeah, I think at this point of the race, though, with such a big lead, Peugeot would be prepared for any eventuality. They got over the problems last year when the rains came, all the muck being thrown up, getting caught in the radiators and the night, overheating. They put these, as Martin's told us, these fine micro mesh screens in, sort of filters they can pull out. They catch the muck, throw it away and get on with the race. Something I think Audi will be looking at doing next time they come out with the R15.
Well, again, we've said it time and time again, the R15, also the Orica program, both really new programs. Peugeot now have had the shift of power go towards them, because they've not only had the fastest car for the last 3 years, they've now got the best package in terms of logistics, as we've said, and drivers like Genet have been constant there. Remember the tremendous accident that Genet had last year on the test day. It was really quite a spectacular shunt. Put Peugeot on the back foot as well, because they had quite a lot of accidents last year. One thing that hasn't really happened to them this year, and that seems to have worked for them in terms of the keeping the smooth running overall.
Yeah, we haven't talked about that, of course, that the number of accidents there were with prototypes last year, a lot of flying cars, not just the Peugeots. Le Mans have obviously got over that problem. It's been pretty safe. Well, we're going down to the pits, and or we're going for a break this time. So you're back with us, Eurosport International. We have 2 hours 50 minutes of the Le Mans 24 hours to go. We'll be here right through to the finish. Liz has just picked up something.
No, it just looks like this car is which has just gone out with Patrick Dempsey in it. I believe that is his car, and it's pitted very early. It's only been out for a lap or two. I could be wrong. It might not be that car, but it is a car with they're saying it's Joe Foster in the car.
We saw Patrick Dempsey getting in it, didn't we?
Perhaps they haven't. I thought they'd pitted already. Perhaps they haven't.
Maybe this
I
is
thought
the
they had. If
changeover.
not, then this is the changeover for Patrick Dempsey to get in.
So panic not. Just confirm that Marc Genet leads for Peugeot at the moment. It's Marcel Fassler leading for Corvette. We don't know for how long. Ron Fellows told us they're slightly out of sync on their pit stops at the moment, and indeed, if you look at the schedule, Marcel Fassler on 26, Johnny O'Connell on 27, and looking further down then, LMP2, or further up, LMP2, Kaspar Ogard on board the Essex Porsche. He's now got a useful 3-lap lead over Kunimoto-san in the Navi Go Porsche, and in LMP2 it looks at the moment, but without trying to commit them to it, that Rizzi Competizione with Jaime Mello, Mika Salo and Pierre Caffer online to win for the second time in GT2.
Now, interesting, we just had our good friend and colleague Jeremy Shaw join us, man who knows the American scene inside out and upside down. Apparently, Jeremy, you were saying Don Kitch has been taking ill, and that's one of the reasons why Dempsey is doing a little bit more at this stage of the race.
So 3 cars, 2 drivers.
Yeah, that's it. And not only are they 2 drivers, they're 2 drivers who have never ever done Le Mans before.
Baptism of fire.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and Being a South London boy, I think the term would be cream crackered, if you help me rhyming slang for that. And I think the Americans might not pick up on that one. But,
funny, Simon, never realised you're from South London.
You hadn't picked up on that before.
Don't worry, you've got one American that would take either way, so I've definitely got that one.
You're an honorary Brit
I
now,
agree.
So you understand the nuances of our
That's the perfect term for it right now, I think.
Exactly.
And but I think good on them, and it's going to be interesting to see the way they come through to the end now, because those guys are going to be really tired. I know that was a question they were saying, you know, they were struggling a bit at the test they'd had at the Bugatti circuit, saying they were struggling with doing the time in the car. Now that was just an hour and a half or so distance. They've now done about 3 or 4 double stints or more than that, and they've got all the rest of the race to go still. 3 hours is still quite a long way to go. Just seeing the Spiker again here, such a great car. We hope that it will make its way all the way to the finish. Catch up with us again in a minute on Eurosport 2 Live.
Back to Eurosport, you're live from Le Mans, and we're just looking at the Drayson Aston Martin at the moment, which is going around the circuit here in the hands at this moment of Johnny Cocker, and that car is going to finish. It's not going to finish in the top 6 in the class. It's currently running 34th, and it's running in 7th, 8th place in GT2, but this is going to be a great finish anyway for the team. As we said so many times here, any finish at Le Mans is something great, and that's what's happened. Right, in comes around the Ferraris. We're going down to the pits in a moment. Just wait to see who comes in here. That's Leo Mansell then bringing in that car, which he'll hand over to Pierrette.
Nicolas, on a cru que vous alliez jamais sortir de la voiture.
Ouais, non, on avait prévu si les pneus le permettaient.
So Nicolas Prost was saying, how's it all going in the car?
Les pneus vraiment tenaient super bien, donc il n'y avait pas raison de descendre. J'étais assez bien. J'avais plus d'eau, malheureusement, le dernier relais, c'était ce qu'il y avait.
It's been really good. I've really enjoyed my run.
Pas de problème.
Vous avez roulé très
We've had
vite,
no
vous
problems.
étiez à
It's
peu
just
près
been that good.
5 premiers temps autour, c'était hallucinant, hein, le rythme.
Ouais, non, la voiture est vraiment très bien. Je sais pas pourquoi, début de course, on était un peu moins vite que ce qu'on avait vu.
It's been nice driving out. It's been really good at Le Mans, and
un super rythme de course, ça nous a permis de remonter.
Did well in qualifying.
Il va rester encore un peu de bagarre. Si on pouvait aller accrocher la 5e, 6e place, ce serait vraiment génial.
Merci beaucoup.
Now we're running in 5th place, and all is looking good. So it was a very good performance then by that team with the Eureka car up into 5th place. It's going to be the best of the open petrol cars. We have so many classes in P1, don't we? We've got the open diesels, the closed diesels, we've got the closed petrol cars, the open petrol cars. And, as Nigel Mansell said, this is what he loves. He loves the variety of all the classes. So he said, I know there's 4 classes entitled. He said, but in fact, you've got about 20 classes when you take all the different combinations.
You're absolutely right. This is the thing it's very difficult. In some respects, Le Mans is very easy to explain to a layman. In other respects, it's very difficult. The simple thing is you've got a wonderful mixture of prototypes and GT cars, and most people who've got a vague understanding of motorsport will get that very quickly. Ultimately, it's the biggest, the most famous motor race in the world, but then you get into the nuances of the diesel and the change of the regs. But that's the same with any motorsport enthusiast, depending on how serious a fan they are, or whether they're just like tuning in every now and again. But the main thing that we enjoy is this, like, okay, we know because we've got some of the stories in the background. What a tremendous job some of these people are doing with the package that they've got. We talked about how impressed we've been with the Patrick Dempsey team, because they've been solid and they've not done anything silly. They've been really there all the time. How impressed we've been with the Spiker guys, because they've got the best out of a car which is nowhere near as developed in terms of ultimate pace as the Ferraris and the Porsche. And then the list goes on. That there's so many great stories out there that we've had. There's so many hard luck stories, but that's by definition what Le Mans is all about. But the big story, the story that we think is going to be the one that is going to hit all the headlines, especially in France, is going to be, it looks, and I really don't want to jinx it, like one or other of the Peugeots has done enough at this stage, doesn't it?
Yep, it certainly does. And the Brabham connection again is also going to be a massive story worldwide, not even particularly in Sydney as well as in London, because David Brabham very much a domiciled Brit now. So, looking at the Krohn car, Risi Competizione's team. They're watching Tracy Krohn was at the wheel of this car. It's the 83 car. I'm just looking down at the order to see where that is at the moment. He's had a solid run, luckily, after all the problems they're having in qualifying. Yes, it is Tracy on board at the moment. That car is not only 4th in GT2, it's 25th overall. Very good run by them, Liz.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they've really moved up, and not a team that anybody had picked to even be in the top 6, I think, and they've just sort of done a solid job and just kept chipping away at it, and it's actually come to them, which none of us thought would happen in the GT2 class. I personally thought that most of the class, because there were so many strong drivers, would be absolutely flat out to the end, and there'd be no hope for some that just stayed in there, you know, doing the good solid job, just doing in the lap times, chipping them in one after another. But we've seen that with the Spiker, we've seen it with the Tracy Krohn car, and I think that's great. I think that that's still what endurance racing is. I think if you keep bringing the car around and you have fast pit stops and keep it out of the garage, that you deserve to have the finish.
Yeah, and just looking at the screen, I mean, Tracy Krohn is in with the possibility of a podium finish, because the 78 Ferrari with Jimmy Brunn is on board at the moment has to make another pit stop yet, and Tracy's only 1 minute 13 behind him, so they're looking quite good, and that would be a Risi 1-3 if they could pull that off.
That would be absolutely incredible for them, and a huge accomplishment for Tracy Krohn and his crew as well. It just is going to depend what their driver lineup is for the end, what their plan is, and what their pit strategy is, I think.
Yeah, absolutely, especially after such a disastrous year last year. It just all went wrong from the beginning for the team, and they just really didn't have a hope. But you know, that's motorsport. It turns around so quick, especially at this place. Good job here. We've just been watching for a couple of laps. Michael Vergers, the experienced Dutchman, who's done them all in so many different categories. And of course, very well known to British fans as well, because he's done most of his racing over there in the UK. And Vergers, he's known to his friends, is a very, very talented guy. He's worked with the father and son duo of Sean and Michael McInerney. Been racing in the Brit Car Series with those guys, and some GTs and all kinds of different things. And they're gonna be very, very pleased to be able to get the car home. At the moment, it looks like it's going to be just outside what, as Liz said, is an exceptionally competitive GT2 field, just outside the top 10. But to get a finish, coming back to another point Liz made earlier, that's a hell of an achievement for guys, you know, like the McInernys, who go racing because it's such a special thing to do them all.
How important is the comfort element of you know, the three people who've raced together in Britain and all these things all come together in one car at Le Mans? Does that make a big difference when you know, you trust, and you like your teammates?
Yeah, I think that makes a really big difference. It was great for me in 2006 to race with Clint Field and Duncan Dayton. I've been racing with Clint the whole season and the season before. It was a car I knew, a team I knew. It makes a huge difference, where it's a lot harder when you come into a new team. A lot of teams, you know, that speak a foreign language and stuff, and you've got a huge difference of drivers and languages and everything, and it is a different comfort level for people. It's great to come with your team, you know, that you're used to driving with. It's a gelled group already, and you know each other, and you know the car, and it certainly makes for an easier 24-hour race, I think.
Yeah, you're enjoying it, you're in the zone, you've got this collective will to win between the whole team and the drivers, and it's, you know, the whole thing, that coming back to the point we made a bit earlier about the dynamic between Dindo, Tom Christensen and McNish, is that, you know, they are a unit, they're a single unit, you know, it's you know, we're all a third of each other, as it were. Now, we've been talking a little bit earlier on here on Eurosport about some of the great stories at Le Mans, and one of the great stories for a lot of fans here, and especially for the thousands of Dutch fans who go to just about every motorsport event, is the Spiker car, and we're delighted to be joined by a man who won his class at Le Mans here last year in the Van Merkstein Porsche. You're in Blekemolen, great to see us. How's the car at the moment, first of all, and how are you?
Well, I'm fine, a little bit tired, but I'm finished driving, so it's okay now. But yeah, the car is going really well. I mean, we didn't push all the way. I just did an 411, but I think if we go really on it, then we should be able to do 406, 407. But then you don't know if the car is still together in the end. So we want to keep it okay, and as it looks now, it looks very strong.
Now this year, obviously a different approach, a two-car team last year, a single-car team this year. Very experienced guys, yourself and Tom especially, of course, know the car very well, have worked with the program for a long time. And what particularly is different about, apart from the single car, about the program this year that you think's made it more successful?
Well, they've been just better prepared. They've been working hard over the winter and did quite a lot of testing, and just prepared everything better than before. They had a bit more time. It wasn't in a big rush, and especially this week, because normally when you look at Spijker garage for the last few years. They had to work through all the nights to get the car ready, but now everybody was relaxed and the car was ready for the race. So this is always a good start.
We've seen obviously Peugeot having what looks like the success that they've been working for. It's been their third year, and I guess with Spijker it's a similar thing. Each year you come, each year you learn something new, each year the car evolves, and everybody just comes together as a unit a little bit better.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, okay, we still have quite some time to go, but yeah, it looks very good, and I'm very happy for the whole team, because they've been working, I think, now for 7 years on a Le Mans program, and they never actually finished the race. Only once they crossed the line, but they weren't classified because they didn't do enough laps. So this could be the first finish, and I think it's a strong finish, because you race against Ferrari and Porsche, and they are so strong that if you finish, you know, we are 6 now. If you can do that, or maybe even a top 5, that's fantastic.
I guess it's like a victory for you guys. It's as good as winning outright in terms of what you've achieved.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, personally, it feels a bit weird to be happy with a 6th place. But to be honest, I think for the team, you know, they will be so happy, and actually it will feel like a win for them.
Now also we're familiar on Eurosport watching your exploits in the Porsche Super Cup, of course, leading the championship. A tremendous weekend in Turkey for you last time out. You go to Silverstone in a week or so's time, and your good friend and close rival Richard Westbrook, I'm sure, will have a lot of home support there. But between the two of you, we seem to have probably two of the finest Super Cup drivers working against each other, of course, but it seems like a pretty good, fair fight at the moment.
Yeah, it's nice, because obviously Richard is one of the best Porsche drivers there is. And it wasn't just that, you know, he was a factory driver for Porsche, so for sure he's one of the best, and it's great to be racing against him. You know, it's always good to race against good people, because then when you win, you know you've won something big. And I enjoy a lot racing with him, because he's always a tough but fair guy, and yeah, it's good. I mean, it's so far we have a little edge over him, I think, but I'm sure he'll be very strong in other races that are coming up. So it'll be a tough fight till the end.
Yeah, we always, I look on racecam.de for the information, and I see which one is it. Is it Blake Miller or is it Westy that's on pole? It's usually one of you two guys. So, and also interesting, you're in, obviously last year you had such a busy year. You were driving for A1GP Team Netherlands, driving in the Van Merkstein car, driving in the Porsche Super Cup, winning the Porsche Super Cup as well. This year, is it any calmer for you, or is it just as crazy?
Yeah, maybe even this year, because I do now the complete German Porsche Cup as well, and I race in Holland in a new championship, in a Dutch GT4 championship, and then A1, but A1 is finished now. So and then of course the Super Cup, and maybe I do some more long distance races with Spijker if there's time, but probably there's not. So it's since April till October, it's every weekend racing.
Do you ever actually have a weekend away from a racetrack, Jeroen? Are you always driving?
Not a lot, no. It's nearly always driving.
Okay. Jeroen, it's been great to see you. I hope you have a great finish. Thanks for your time. We're going to take a very quick break here on Eurosport, and we'll be back with more action for the remaining part of Le Mans 24 Hours 2009. Welcome back to Le Mans 2009. We now watch the Speedy Sebar, the car that is racing in GT LMP2, which is currently with Johnny Kane, the man from Northern Ireland, on board, as we see the Kunimoto driven Team Go Porsche currently second in that category. It's now, let's see, a couple of laps behind the leading car, the car currently being driven by Kasper Elgaard, the Team Essex car. And of course, we've just been speaking with Jeroen Bleekemolen, and this was the car that Jeroen raced to victory last year, with Van Merkstein sharing the car with Peter Van Merkstein and Jos Verstappen. And the Michelin Green X Challenge, well, maybe explain what the green Essex car was all about, Liz. I don't know if you know any more about that than I do.
Well, I certainly know that's why it's green. That's as much as I really know. But certainly I do know that both of these two cars have absolutely dominated this class for the entire 24 hours. They've run basically in this order the entire time. So I think we're just seeing what everybody predicted, the domination of Porsche in LMP2. They're actually a lot quicker than the other cars as well. They were in qualifying, whereas the rest of the LMP2 class seems to be on a completely different level of speed.
Yeah, and that young man Kunimoto, we knew he was a star. We knew he had talent because he's won the Macau F3 race last year, and he's also very quick in Formula Nippon. But a big change of circumstance and scenery here, coming here, and And we heard from Sasha Masson the other night how impressed he was with him. I think we all agree now with Sasha that this kid's got a huge amount of potential. You could see if his career went that way, being very much a top-line Japanese sports car driver.
Yeah, I think so too.
We haven't really talked about the Michelin Green Challenge, have we? It runs in the Le Mans series as well as Le Mans. It's what used to be the index of performance here, except what they do is just that basically it comes down to who can go the furthest on the least fuel. It's as simple as that. You award points for it, and at the end of the season, including the 24 hours, there'll be a prize for the most economical car of the year. That's what it comes down to. Michelin happy to sponsor it because it's on their tyres.
And we all know now with emissions being such a significant factor to most manufacturers, or to all manufacturers, and to especially going back to Peugeot and Audi, they've got HDI technology and TDI technology, as they respectively call it, turbo diesel, whichever way you look at it, lower emissions, better performance is the combination. Running on biofuel. Of course, Shell being very involved with the program. Every time you stop at your local Shell garage, you see an advert showing the R10 or the R15 talking about its turbo diesel combination, the VMAX fuel, I think they're talking about. So we know that not only are emissions important from the point of view of the engines, but also Michelin are a one-man tyre manufacturer that put a lot of effort into the energy-saving tyres. A lot of manufacturers now fitting those to the cars. So, yes, we know we're not going to try and fall in on and say suddenly we've gone completely green when we're racing at Le Mans. But there are, and there have been, a lot of manufacturers who are putting a big effort to trying to get closer and closer to doing something worthwhile in developing the technology, tyre and fuel technology.
Number one car back in, changing tyres. Now, I wonder why this is at this stage, because they changed tyres when Capello was sitting in the garage. They did all that sort of work. He is still on his first stint out of the pit. In fact, it's a little bit shorter, I think, isn't it, than we expected. It's certainly well under 50 minutes.
I think they've just gone into testing mode, to be honest, Mark. I think they appreciate that with 6 laps behind the lead cars, with 2 hours 30 to go, unless something disastrous happens to the lead cars, there's no way on pace they're going to get close. So let's do what we need to do as a team, as a manufacturer, Audi. Let's just get the most. So maybe they're throwing tyres at it as a test program.
Yeah, Peter Hardman at the wheel of the little Straka Zytek. This is the car that's based at Silverstone. It's run by Harry and Nick Leventis, the team. They're the Greek Cypriot olive oil producers, Straka, and that's what they've given their name to it. Plus their energy drink, which is called Relentless. You see that all over the pit garage, and you mentioned Red Bull down there. You get thrown out of the pits. So great job they've done. Danny Watts did a sterling job in qualifying, again in the race. He's helped Peter Hardman, who's the middleman, and Nick Leventis, who, although he's in his second year here, is still a young learning driver, and it's Nick who's made any mistakes the car's had. Danny absolutely faultless. Peter's done a good job, and Peter you'll be able to see, of course, racing or performing at Goodwood in a few weeks' time in the 1959 Le Mans winning Aston Martin. That's the car he'll be driving there.
Well, we know that the quality of Peter Hardman, people forget about guys like Peter Hardman and Richard Dean. They're of the same generation, that they were all potentially on the way to F1 at certain points in their career, and as we know with lots of drivers, it, for whatever reason, doesn't pan out. Peter's a good case in point, very quick in F3 and F3000 back in the day, and then moved across into sports cars and historic. He's now become one of the leading lights in historic racing, and it's a safe pair of hands, but a very fast pair of hands it is, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, and he's driven a lot of different Aston Martins, a lot of different cars, a huge variety of cars Peter Hardman's driven, and this is a pretty exciting drive for him. I think he'll be very pleased to be back in a prototype at Le Mans. He did GT1 Aston for a while. He did a LMS program in that, I believe. But certainly being back in a prototype is going to be an exciting proposition for him.
Ralph Jutner talking with Michelin about the tyre they've just taken off that car of Dindo Capello. Obviously something not very happy. Look, they're closing ranks as our camera tries to see exactly what the problem is. So we're having to assume it doesn't look like it's punctured, does it? There's something not right there. We did actually say to come back, we thought a bit early for tyres.
Well, occasionally you do get a situation, I'm sure Liz has experienced it as a driver, I certainly have in the past, where you get just a random tyre or a random set of tyres, and it's just sometimes an odd batch, and the car just goes from being a mega car to awful, absolutely, and you can't, what's happened? Something broken? So no, it's just tyres.
Well, you can get anything from blistering to delamination, which is by far the worst thing to happen, which basically the car begins to separate, the tyre level separates when the canvas comes apart, and there's all sorts of things that could happen, and like Simon said, it could just be a fault in the actual tyre and the construction, so it's very hard for us to tell with them very carefully hiding us from the Michelin tyre, but certainly I'm sure that whatever it is, it will probably never happen again with Audi.
Pedro Lamy has just pulled this car back up into 6th now. They were 7th a few minutes ago. They've just gone past Andrea Bellici. This is the car, remember, very early in the race was involved in a pit lane collision. Pedro continued with a rear puncher and destroyed virtually the whole of the left-hand rear of the car, took the turbos, intercoolers, everything off, despite driving as best he could to try and get the car back to the pits. You do go into sort of safety mode, don't you, Liz? Get home at all costs. But I know you were a little bit critical at one point. You said, I think he's going a little bit fast for what's happening behind him.
I mean, I still think maybe a little bit, but it is a very difficult situation, especially when that happens out of the pits at Le Mans. It's an 8-mile circuit. You suddenly are faced with a very, very long ride home, and it is very tempting to go that little bit quicker. But at the same time, I do maintain maybe he was a little bit faster than he needed to be. It's just once you get to that stage where the tyres ripping apart, you just start having bodywork coming off left, right and centre, like we saw in all the different damage they had. But either way, they were in for losing the lead they had regardless, just based purely on the long ride back to the pit lane.
Now this has been a success story at Le Mans. The cars just did not show well in qualifying. Nicolas Lapierre we had in the cabin yesterday, sharing this Matmut Eureka car with Olivier Panis and Soye Ayari, and what a great job they've done. They're in 5th place, and they're certainly going to win the privateer race if they can continue this pace.
Absolutely, and what a big effort from them. The first car having so many problems, so many accidents, but I'm really pleased to see that this car is still pushing through to the finish and actually just putting in the lap times now, just trying to keep it consistent. Speaking of lap times, we just looked down, and the man who is in the 20s is Pedro Lamy. He's just done a 27. He's definitely doing everything he can to keep pushing that car up through the order, and he's only, it looks like, about not very far off.
It was 2 minutes at the start of the last lap behind.
Not a long way.
Behind Lapierre.
And if he keeps this up, the lap time of Lapierre was 3:36, whereas Pedro Lamy's just done a 3:27. So if we do our math, it is doable.
I'll definitely do. I think from the outset, the ambition has always had to be to get the car somewhere sensible. And our good friend and colleague Chris Parsons is just looking through our timing screens, and after 2 hours, that car was in 49th position. Which gives testament to the tenacity of the team and how well the car's run since then. But also, all three of those guys have been properly, to quote a friend of mine, fully lit.
Yeah, one of my favourite terms.
I just love this South London.
That's not just from me, that's all the Brands Hatch boys, actually. Shout out to all the boys from Brands.
Well, of course, Chris Parsons here of us, he's a South London boy.
He is a South London boy, we had that chat.
He's a Greenwich boy, wasn't he?
Much like myself, you see. So there's 2 of us, so don't pick on us, all right?
And let's just bring Greenwich into the equation. Liz, you're hoping still to be selected for the 2012 Olympics in London, and if you get that, if you represent the USA, you will be competing in Greenwich Park, won't you?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's an ambitious goal, but I'm still trying. I've got a couple nice horses now. I'm quite busy. I've got 7 horses I'm competing at the moment, so it's keeping me out of trouble while I'm not in a race car. But that would be my ultimate ambition. It would be great if it was in London. I'm living here, and I've always said I'm going to stay in England at least until that comes around. And I'd love to drive for Le Mans and compete, at the very best sporting event in the world as well. And that would be the ultimate goal, I think.
She's not at all competitive, is she?
She's not at all. The main thing is now we can speak to our mate Liz and get some tickets for the opening ceremony.
I need to make the team first, right? That's the first step.
We'll be there. We'll be there amongst the Sea of Union Jacks. We'll be sort of the semi-American. Cheer our friend Liz on.
Nice one, thanks.
This is Eurosport live from the 2012 Olympics at Greenwich. And well, here we are, 2 hours 23 to go, and I'm going to be handing over in a short while to Jeremy Shaw. He's going to take over with the rest of the run-in to the last laps of the Le Mans 24 hours. Quite a lot of them to go, though, but the situation at the moment, Marc Genet leading Sébastien Bourdais. Those 2 cars 1 lap apart when they come across the line. Audi Dindo Capelli dropping 6 laps back now. They have pulled a lap back at the last pit stop, but Stefan Mucker in the Aston Martin Lola in 4th place. Nick Lapierre for Eureka in 5th place, and Pedro Lamy, who's on a real charge, Jeremy, he's there in 6th place, but he's the fastest man on the track at the moment. He's banging in 27s regularly. Having just said that, it's a 34 on the last lap traffic, but normally 27s.
Yeah, but only then, because he just come into the pit lane. I think you'll find he has, you're right, Mark, been running absolutely superbly. I regularly get caught out by looking at that, and I see the flat time, and I forgot to see the little red square on the other end of the line. But it was another excellent stint by Pedro Lamy. That car Well, it's been the quickest car of the race, hasn't it? Has set the fastest lap at a 3:24.352. That was by Nicola Manassia in the not the early hours this morning, but the early hours of daylight this morning. But they've been just sort of clawing back the time lost, haven't they, earlier in the race? It looks like there's more time lost here too.
We had a fire in the pits. We have. Is it a fire? Is it, no, there's the sunshine, isn't it? I thought for a moment there was extinguisher powder. They're just changing a nose. It's the way it caught the light.
Oh, that is the number 7 car, and they're changing the rear deck of that car. We're not entirely sure why, but they don't seem particularly panicked about it. So whether this was planned or not, I'm not sure. Perhaps there was some contact earlier on.
There's the second place car. Seabass still on board that car. He's one lap, as we said, behind the lead Peugeot of Marc Genet, Alex Wirtz and of David Brabham. David Brabham, of course, coming here off the back of his 2008 GT1 win for Aston Martin, and that's one race that Aston's not going to win today, of course. Corvettes on their swan song, Canaries on their swan song, I suppose you could say. And Ron Fellows just giving the inside gem. What a fine fellow Ron is, the Canadian driver who's done all the development work, on the Corvette program. He and Doug Feehan working hand in hand, and you know, it's thanks to Ron that they ever got to Le Mans and had these wins.
Yeah, you noticed he said he was semi-retired, didn't he, when he was up with us there? I was chatting to him beforehand, before we brought him up here, and he sort of, I know he'd much rather be behind the wheel of the car.
Well, never say never.
Now, a good point about that, dealing with these Corvettes, we heard from Ron Fellows that they were on a different lap with their tyres, that basically one of the drivers was sort of 2 stints up and the other one was 1 stint up. Well, now that's all swapped around. Antonio Garcia's gotten into the car. He's got fresh tyres. He's doing a 3:55. Now, Marcel Fassler is doing a 3:58 in the last lap. So Marcel's the one on the older tyres. Antonio Garcia is a man on a mission with new tyres. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. But certainly there is not a very big gap there.
And you're right, they are changing. They're off sequence, as you say, Miss Hadley, on when they change the drivers and when they change the tyre. So it's a seesaw battle. It's just going back and forth, and it's really tough to know really exactly where they stand with one another. But I think you probably asked Ron whether there are any team orders. There's never any team orders at GM Corvette, except, as he said, don't hit each other. Mind you, the drivers, Andrea Bellinci,
7th place car
making a routine pit stop. I think that car's run like clockwork pretty much all through the day and the night. And if I hark back to Mid-Ohio, I think it was last year, where the Corvettes took their rivalry onto pit lane, which was quite entertaining. There were banging doors going down the pit lane going after a pit stop. Fantastic stuff it was to watch. And Doug Feehan gave a bit of a talking to.
I was going to say that probably breaks the rule of don't hit each other, especially when you're in pit lane.
It was very funny. It really was fantastic. And the drivers were howling with laughter afterwards, and Doug was getting a good ticking off, a finger wagging. But,
well, really, those guys are so much fun. I mean, they just so enjoy their job, and they so love driving for Corvette, and always been such a good time to have here at Le Mans and in the American Le Mans Series, and I cannot wait to see their GT2 program come to fruition.
On board then with our race leader, that was our race leader just a moment ago. It is still Marc Genet in the number 9 car, 347 laps behind him.
Alex, still leading the race. How do you feel?
Yeah, I feel okay. A little bit tense, to be honest, because as long as the car number 8 keeps pushing, we can only keep pushing as well. So they're trying really hard to close the gap. So I was going for it. Marc has to go for it, so that's life.
You seem quite tired after your 3 sets. It's difficult physically, no?
Yeah, I mean, I have been in a better shape than today, but I'm still okay in case I have to go again. I'm ready to do that. But it was so far a hard race because it's push all the time.
You finished driving now? Did you finish driving now?
We are not sure if Marc has a problem. I will jump in for 1 or 2 stints, but at the moment he's doing a good job.
So you stay on?
Yeah.
While we're talking to Alex Wirtz there, that was one of the Corvettes we saw stopped. It looked like on the rundown from the Porsche curves to the pits. Is that where it was?
Yeah, I think so, Mark. Yeah, and it was another 64 Corvette. It stopped at post 128, which is just before the Ford chicane. There is the pit lane
there we go.
entrance. And boy, that is a major disaster. I'm surprised. Well, I don't know why it stopped, but I would have thought he would have been able to get it back on the starter motor back to the pit lane.
Well, a major disaster is stopped, but not a major disaster where he's stopped, because he is savable there. You're back with Eurosport here live at Le Mans, and both classes having problems with the front end runners. We've just seen a spin for Sergei Arret, the second chicane. He's back on track now, but that's an unforced error, and it's very rare in fact for this car. Both of them have been very, very reliable, very solid, and very clean driving. Also, Marcel Fassler has not yet managed to get back to the pits in the black Corvette. We've got a spin also there for the 76 Matmut car. That is not the lead one, is it? This is the 76 car, which is some way down the order at the moment. That's Patrick Pilet on board. He's in 35th place and 11th in class.
Yeah, this is a real disaster for Corvette. They were hoping for a 1-2 in sort of their final year with the GT1 program. We're still waiting to hear exactly what's happened. Not happy faces there in Corvette, so with any luck they're going to find a way to get that car back to the garage.
Yeah, and a disaster too for Porsche this race has been. I mean, they were looking so strong early on in the GT2 class. They've led a goodly portion of the race with several different cars. But finally then a problem, yet another problem for car 76 Patrick Pilet, and he shared that car with some very fast co-drivers in Raymond Narac and Patrick Long.
Yeah, that's the highest placed Porsche in 11th place.
Yeah, it's the only one still running.
Not only have they got the line of Ferraris, the Spiker's up there as well. Spiker at the moment 6th in class, as we just heard from Jeroen.
One disaster after another for Porsche.
Yeah, so there we are. There's the Corvette guys. They're going to go down, see what they can do. Can't have outside assistance, but they can stand by and tell Marcel what to do, can't they?
Well, certainly if it had been something as simple as a reserve pump failing or something, perhaps they wouldn't be going down there. So this gives some hope to Corvette that maybe it is something that they can help direct Marcel to fix, or at least find a way to get it back. He's so close. He's there. He's in pit lane. All he has to do is make it that little extra way.
That is such a shame, because this was just building up into such a tremendous battle over these last 2 hours and 15 minutes of this race. Yes, that's exactly how long there is still to go. We've had 21 hours and 45 minutes, or whatever the maths is, and 2 hours and 12 minutes to go. So there goes some of the Chevy guys down to see what they can do. But as you said, Mark Cole, they can't do a heck of a lot except for offer advice. And if they happen to find the driver of the car, which at the moment is still Marcel Fassler, happens to find some spare tools lying around, and perhaps he can pick them up and fall into his pocket. We've heard that one before, haven't we?
He may even have tools on board. You never know. Yeah. Most cars do carry a very small assortment of tools on board in the car.
That car had to be due for a pit stop any minute. I mean, I can't believe they would have run it out of fuel.
No, surely not.
But it certainly was due for a pit stop any time.
Yeah. It makes me wonder if maybe their reserve pump has failed like we've seen before, because surely an operation like Corvette would not have reached a stage where they would let it run out of fuel.
We are hearing it might be gearbox problems, transmission problems, so just having a...
That would explain perhaps why he wasn't able to lift it back.
Yeah.
But he drive to the rear
Could be
wheels.
Broken drive shaft, yes.
It could be, yeah.
They're not in a hurry, are they? They're just strolling down there. I think
this might be it, unfortunately.
It certainly is a great shame.
Such a blow this late in the race.
Marcel Fassler and the two Ollies, Olivier Beretta and Oliver Gavin. That is the 64 car, pretty much tucked behind the wall there, surrounded by marshals and not much else.
It has to be said, Marcel has done a great job, hasn't he, with them? I mean, I know he's been in the car before, but I mean, what a great job today here.
Yeah, it's done I mean, that's why he's in the job.
Yep.
You know, he got the job. He's a fine driver. He's been around for a long time, got a huge amount of experience in all sorts of different cars. And he was the man that Chevy wanted to be their factory driver.
So they're being told they can't go that way, you've got to go round, guys, so it's going to make life even more difficult. The trouble is, wherever you go here, there's fences.
Now, interestingly, what this has done, if this Corvette is out, what this has done is opened up an amazing podium position for the Aston DBR9 of Lichtner in the car at the moment. This is something they never, ever would have dreamed of having happen, so potentially this could be Aston Martin on the podium again.
We saw that car into the pits at the end of the very first lap of the race, didn't we? It's been one disaster after another since then, but as you say, perhaps all is not yet lost.
Well, we're going down. Justine is in the Corvette pit at the moment, and while half the crew is running down to the Ford chicane, let's hear what Corvette have got to say when she catches them. It's a long, long way, isn't it?
Certainly not happy faces there in the Corvette camp. This is the absolute worst time to have something go wrong so close to the end when you've worked so hard. Everything's run like clockwork.
36 cars then still running here in Le Mans out of 55 starters, and just getting head down 20 retirements now if they can't get this Corvette going again. So Marc Genet continues to lead from Sebastian Bourdais, Dindo Capello, Stefan Mucker in 4th place in the best of the rest in the Lola Aston Martin in Gulf colours, and Nicolas Lapierre in the Eureka car in 5th. He's back in the pits actually. Both those cars are in the pits, 4th and 5th. Lapierre's come back in, I don't know why so quickly.
Certainly a routine stop, I believe, for the Lola Aston Martin 007. Stefan Mucker, as you say, just rejoined.
Yeah, he's just rejoined.
Yeah, that was right on schedule. 12 laps since his last pit stop, so all he needed was a top up of fuel, and away he went. This is an excellent run by Lola Aston Martin. It has to be stated, to be within just over a lap, certainly within 2 laps anyhow, of the number 1 last year's winning crew, that Audi R15 TDI, is a pretty remarkable effort for that whole Lola Aston Martin Pro Drive team.
So let's go down to the Corvette pits, just hear what exactly the problem is.
Oliver, what happened with your car?
Well, it looks like we've had a transmission failure of some sort. We're not entirely sure what it is, but just on that lap that Marcel was on, he radioed in saying that he'd got a smell of transmission oil, and they looked at the telemetry and there was a spike in the readings, and looks like we've had some form of failure actually with inside the box, we think. It seems like all the other drivetrain is together, but it's actually, we think, internally within the box. So we're just desperately trying to get the car back. It was so close just there at the pit entry, and we're trying to get the car back legally so that we can try and get it in here, fix it, so at least we can get out and finish the race so that we can maybe get a podium position. But for sure the victory has gone for us today, and it's a great shame. I mean, it was good at sizing up for such a great race at the end, such a close finish, and we'd had some particularly bad luck with safety cars, and because of being pushed back behind the 63 car, we'd caught them up, we'd passed them, we'd pulled away, and now it seems that Lady Luck has served us another nasty hand, and we're on the receiving end of more misfortune.
You were pushing really hard against the 63, which is your teammates. Did you have any team order to get a little bit slow down?
No. The only team orders that we had was that don't hit one another, and Doug Feehan and Gary Pratt here are very keen on us, being clean in our racing, but being hard, and that's one of the reasons why we're all employed, is to race fairly and squarely and hard and fast and cleanly. And I mean that if it had all run out, through all the pit stops, so that last half an hour, it would have been extremely close, and you would have seen some decent racing on the very last lap of the race, which is quite unusual here at Le Mans. So once again, it's not turned our way.
Such a shame. Thank you very much.
No, I can't only tell it like it is. So very big sadness for this guy, of course, who ran the London Marathon just a few weeks ago for charity, and today it's his Corvette pit crew had to do the marathon all the way down to the exit from the Porsche curves. So 351 laps completed. We're just coming up to the 2-hour mark, and I think it's probably time I step down. I've done a 4-hour stint, and Martin is waiting, not in the wings, he never waits in the wings. Martin is waiting there, and I'll see you later on.
Jolly good, Mark, thank you very much indeed. And just a major disappointment obviously for Oliver Gavinet. He's had 4 class wins here before. Olivier Beretta, his teammate, has had 5 class wins. For Marcel Faisler, none, and it will remain so, unfortunately. Great shame for those guys. They put up a sterling effort. They lost about a half a lap as a result of that safety car period. Within the first hour of the race, they battled away to try and get it back. A couple of other safety cars didn't fall their way. Finally, at about, I don't know, 7 o'clock or so this morning. One did fall their way. They got right back on terms with the number 63 car, and it was a battle all the way from there, and it was back and forth, nip and tuck, depending on pit stops and strategies and what have you, and it really was, as Oliver Gavin said, it was going to be building up into a tremendous finale. And it's a great shame for all of us, for all of the fans here at Le Mans and watching on Eurosport live, as you have been with us for 24 hours. It's not to be. Oh no, here's another disappointment.
The witching hours are coming, 2 hours away from the end, and the Aston Martin of Johnny Cocker, Paul Drayson and Marino Franchitti rolls to a halt. I was just talking to the team about half an hour ago, and they were having everything crossed. They're taking it easy. All they want to do is stroke the car through to the flag. And that looks very tough indeed. Incidentally, Ollie Gav looking a little bit better than he did earlier on. He's had 2 litres of IV fluid since he was last in the car and getting ready for the finish of Le Mans, but looks like that car will not now make it. I suppose there was a slight chance if it had run out of fuel that the 63 car could come up behind and push it down pit road in a teammately gesture, but if it's got a broken transmission, maybe it is jammed in gear.
Well, and the other problem there, Martin, was the fact that the marshals pushed it behind the wall, so the number 3 car couldn't even get behind it to push it out. So that's most unfortunate. Again,
tricky. He should have parked it in a more dangerous position. It serves him right for being a gentleman, I suppose.
Yeah, it does a bit, I suppose.
Yeah,
but, again, you know, those are the rules here. You're not allowed to get it back by hook or crook. There's a certain way things are done here at Le Mans. Not the way things are done in various other parts of the world, but that's the way they're done here, and you certainly have to respect that. And it's going to end up now, it would appear, with no competition for even amongst the factory team. It'll be Antonio Garcia currently driving car number 63. Here it is. He shares that car with Johnny O'Connell and Jan Magnussen, and those two between them, they've had a huge amount of success. We talked about the 4 and the 5 wins respectively for the Ollies. Well, Johnny O'Connell and Jan Magnussen, they've both got 3 class wins here at Le Mans to their credit, and of course their co-driver, the man who's at the wheel right now, Antonio Garcia, he has just 1 class win to his name, but that was last year, as we already talked about, for Aston Martin on that occasion.
Of course, Super Jan Magnussen often with the Ollies in their car. When Ron Fellows was sharing with Johnny O'Connell, they were often joined by Max Papis, but Ronnie taking a bit of a step back.
Yeah, the tall car that was, all the tall drivers together.
Well, apart from when Magnussen with lanky Ollie. But we still have a Corvette 1-2, of course, as long as this one keeps grumbling round. Jan Claret at the wheel of the 73 Alphon Aventure Corvette. And although Marcel Faster's car is still 2 laps ahead of it, because it will not take the checkered flag, it will not be classified as a finisher no matter how many laps it's done. Somebody has skated straight on there and gone through the chicane.
Big Papa's blue stone.
Yeah, so let's have a look who it was. There you are in the foreground. Who do we reckon that is? That's a Collis Audi. Yeah, Collis Audi. So that's the 14 of Lotterer, or the 15, I don't know who's in that at the moment. Mondini. My money's on 15. Welcome back live to Le Mans inside the final 2 hours of the 24 hours for 2009, the 77th running of the world's greatest motor race, and yet another nail-biting conclusion in prospect. Peugeot first and second, Audi third, Lola Aston Martin in 4th place, the best of the petrol engine cars in a race that has seen decimation among the expected front runners. And joining us here in the booth, I'm Martin Haven, alongside me Jeremy Shaw. I have seen my Rockenfeller looking a little happier. Rocky, not the greatest race today for you.
No, not at all. It was unfortunately not a long race. I did the start, and I did the first three stints, and Alan was in the number 1 car and Alex Prema in our number 3 car, and actually it was not too bad. I mean, we were struggling with understeer quite a bit, but I was able to keep up with Alan. Actually then I was in front of him, and then Lucas had the problem in the Porsche corner and lost the car. I still don't know why. It's for me it didn't really look like a mistake. It really looks strange, because you're that quick in that corner and you have so much downforce. It really, okay, once the car snaps away, it can happen if you know, if you hit the bump wrong or whatever, but it looked so strange that he corrected it 3 times and then lost the car. So for me, we really have to investigate what was the problem when we come home.
Well, I spoke to him a little earlier and he said he came up to you and said, okay, now we're even, and you said you didn't have to do that.
Exactly. No, I said it was no problem for me to be the only one who had a big crash here in Le Mans. So it's really, I tell you, a tough race for us, and I mean for the whole team. As you see, the number 3 car, they had a big problem early on, so they lost basically the race already, and then we had this problem, and as you see, the number 1 car is struggling a bit, and so it's not the best Le Mans for us, that's for sure.
Certainly, you've never been particularly happy with the balance of the car, have you, as the drivers all the way through this event?
Yeah, unfortunately we had no pre-test. I mean, that's the same for all, so it's no excuse, but we have a brand new car, and of course you prepare yourself and you work out some setups and aero balances, and then you come here, and you know, on Wednesday it was rain, so we couldn't try it, and then Thursday, of course, we had also some little problems, and we couldn't really focus on the setup. And then in the race, we found out that we had huge understeer, and you know, then basically you have to stick to this for 24 hours. I mean, we tried to change the front noses to get more downforce, which helped a little bit. But you're right, we are not happy with the setup and with the handling, and that's why we can't use the potential of the car.
Looked to me as though Audi were less prepared, less ready for this race than I've ever seen them, I think, anywhere. Would that be Andrea Bellicchi? Ooh, it really is the tough time of the race. It's hard to go out in the afternoon or the evening. It's really hard to go out at lunchtime. Andrea Bellicchi, 7th place in that Lola Aston Martin, last year's Lola chassis, and that's post 44, so that's down near the first chicane, just 4 kilometers into this 12-kilometer lap. And Rocky, there's an awful lot of people at Audi feeling very less than happy at the moment, but we know you guys are made of tough stuff, and I don't suppose this is going to keep you down for too long.
No, you're right. I mean, of course, if you look at it and see the problems we had and the pace, we can't be happy, and like you said, it was never like this before. But on the other hand, it's racing, and we are all human beings, and we try our best. And you have to accept also when Peugeot is doing a great job, and they did it for the last years, but usually they were having those problems we had now, and now it turned around, and we have to fight back. That's what makes it interesting. Unfortunately, I would rather sit here and you know, see a car of Audi in the lead, but that's racing, and you have to accept it, and also you have to respect it.
A very good attitude, Rocky. Now, through the practice session on Wednesday, then qualifying on Thursday, it looked like the Audi and the Peugeot were pretty closely matched on speed. Have you been surprised at the speed differential?
Well, yeah, you're right. We expected, and we thought that we are actually matching with them with the speed, maybe a little bit slower in the qualifying, but we didn't really try qualifying, you have to say, but probably they didn't as well. And then we expected, of course, for the race. In the past, always Peugeot dropped a little off in the race pace, and we could keep our qualifying pace. Now it looked the opposite, and we don't know why. I think somehow we are struggling with the grip and with the handling of the car, like I said before, and I guess that's the reason. But we have to go home and do our homework for the future better.
Well, I said to Lucas, I'll keep coming back until I get to drink victory champagne with you guys, and I'm pretty sure you will. Listen, thank you for sparing the time to come up and see us, and well, we wish you the very best of luck the next time you're out in the cars.
Thank you very much.
Thank you indeed, my Rockefeller. And again, Jeremy, you know, it's very easy to be in a team that wins. It's really hard to be in a team that struggles. And, you know, Rocky, I'm sure will know exactly how the speedy Sabar Barton, Hugh Hayden's team is feeling at the moment. This Lola just rolling to a halt on the straight. Andre Lotterer seemingly powerless. All he's got is, well, not even 1 horsepower. He's got 4 manpower to push him along now. And it is going to be a tough end to the race for that team.
Yeah, it's a great show for the Lola Aston Martin guys, and yeah, Rocky, he's got a fantastic attitude, hasn't he? You alluded to there, he crashed the car at Tertre Rouge a couple of years ago on his first ever Le Mans start. He's been through the ups and downs, but he's just got a fantastic attitude, that guy. Well, you've probably known him for longer than I have, but the last 3 or 4 years he's been driving in in the American Le Mans Series, both in GT class and then later in the prototypes. And a class act all around. You can see why he was picked up by a major manufacturer like Audi. He's a class act. He tells it like it is too. He doesn't cover things up. He doesn't try and BS you. He's a real straight shooter and a fast driver as well. Really good guy.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, and again, we talked about it throughout the race. The structure comes from the top down. You go to Wolfgang Ulrich, he'll always talk to you. If he says, I can't tell you that, he can't tell you that, and he's not going to just give you some line to make you go away. He'll just say, I'm really sorry, I can't say. Or he will give his best prognosis. Him, Ralf Juttner, everybody down the organisation, from top down to the bottom, through the drivers, they will always give you the time of day and try and give you their view of what's happening, good, bad or indifferent. And they pretty much put their hands up and say, we weren't ready and we weren't fast enough. And in the past, that hasn't been as much of a problem. This year, though, Peugeot have made the best use of what they have. They may have a slightly better advantage this time than they did over the R10 TDIs last year, but they're not giving it away. And I think perhaps critically we'll look back at the end of this race, and the decisive moment for Peugeot, ironically, was when two of their cars crashed in the pit lane, because that in the first outing, oh, come on, guys, come on. That suddenly gives you the focus back, and thereafter they haven't put a foot wrong, and they've got the pace, and this time they are damn well going to capitalise on it.
I certainly think you might be right there, and it was a fascinating comments there from Rocky, wasn't he? He admitted to being surprised at that speed differential. I think everybody was. I think them more than anybody else, because they know the performance of their car. They know how hard they're running it in qualifying, how hard they're running it in practice, and they were pretty convinced that come the race they were going to be right there. And I think most of us thought exactly the same thing.
Well, they have tested these cars relentlessly to near destruction, but what they have not done is race them since Sebring, and that may be the drama. And don't forget, we are going to leave Eurosport 2 in a moment or two. The World Series race at the Hungaroring has finished. We will go over to Eurosport International in just a few minutes. So going to round up here on Eurosport 2 in a moment, and then the finale of the race over on Eurosport International, where Pasquale Di Sabatino has won his and RC Motorsport's first ever World Series by Renault race from Marco Barber and Julian Leal. Wow, that's a top three. Want to see what that race looked like. Here in Le Mans, though, Marc Genet still leading from Sebastian Bourdais, Peugeot 1-2, and that looks unlikely to change. The weather does look now as though it's going to be hot and humid through to the end of the race. The question might be, can the Lola Aston Martin somehow find a podium position falling into its lap? The lead AMR car is in fourth, one Audi separating it from a dream start to its racing career, but let's not get ahead of ourselves just yet. A lot of racing left to go, hour 48 minutes.
Yeah, and I think it would have to be falling in the lap, because clearly the Lola Aston Martin doesn't quite have the pace of the Audi R15 TDI. It's probably a couple of seconds off in ultimate pace, but still it's a very impressive front. If you think like back 1 year ago to the petrol engine cars against the diesels, pretty much 10 seconds there was the margin between the first of the petrol cars to the first of the diesel cars, and this time, so at least from the Audis to the Lola Aston Martins, merely a couple of seconds, so that's a pretty big leap forward.
And I would think that there are a couple of seconds in the Lola Aston Martin if they really thought that they could overcome this 2-lap deficit. But here's the choice, okay? Two of your cars are way down the order. One's retired already, the other one's looking pretty unhealthy. You've got a chance of finishing fourth at Le Mans, best non-diesel car on your debut with the Lola Aston Martin, and all the history of 50 years since Roy Salvadori and Carroll Shelby won in the DBR1, or you can go for bust. And and I'm thinking also that if Aston Martin, Lola Aston Martin Racing push the pace a couple of seconds, Dindo is going to respond by a couple of seconds. I think they've both got it in them. I don't think either of them want to fail to finish. We've seen too many cars fall by the wayside in the last 10 minutes, never mind in the last 2 hours of this race. So I think they are both now going, okay, Audi is saying, okay, we're on the podium, we're third, that's enough. Get there, and I think that Dave Richards and the crew, George Howard Chapel, is under no illusions of how difficult still an hour and 48 minutes of racing at Le Mans can be, and they want to finish in fourth, they want to get the checkered flag, they want to be there at the end.
I think you're absolutely right. They'll take that very happily indeed, I would suggest.
Of course, they won't be turning down a podium if it falls into their lap, but the critical thing is to get the mileage, get the car to the end, and be able to say that we got to Le Mans and we finished our first ever race. So just 30 or 40 seconds left here on Eurosport 2. Thank you for those of you who have joined us on Eurosport 2, or if you don't have Eurosport 2 on Eurosport Player, don't forget we are back up one now onto the main Eurosport and British Eurosport. Okay, not 40 seconds, another minute and a half. We're going to wait for the end of the ceremonies on the World Series by Renault race. So just to round out then, before we leave Eurosport 2, that's the top order we've talked about. Down in the classes, LMP2, still Porsche first and second. I can't believe that those cars have been so reliable. Casper Elgaard in the Essex car ahead of Seiji Ara now in the Team Go-Kart. And third in the LMP2 car, Johnny Kane in the 33 Speedy Sabar Racing Lola. In the GT1 class, Antonio Garcia in the CompuWare Corvette leads from Jan Clare in the 73 car. That is the Luke Aventure Adventure Corvette as the race leader comes onto pit road for a standard splash. And they're really the only two cars still rolling. 66 Aston Martin is out there, and I'm not sure quite how that's going to be classified. LMP2 we've covered. GT2 still being led by Risi Competizione, Jaime Melo ahead of the Ferrari of Paolo Roberti. Third, the Ferrari, the 78 Ferrari, which has come well up the order. Luis Perez Compact, Mateus Russo and Jimmy Bruni, the Argentine-Brazilian crew. So that's it from Eurosport 2. Join us the other side of this break as we head on to Eurosport International for the conclusion, live from Le Mans.